guys, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. What's crack like for everyone's Friday? How was work? How was school? How's keep going home? That's what you did. Welcome on in. We're doing a bit of Supernova Roleplay. And thank you, Chappie, for the tier 1 resub of 10 months in a row. You absolute G-star. And welcome everyone else in the stream. How you guys all going? I'll quickly run a raffle for you guys in chat. Alright, make sure you guys use the exclamation mark trying to get in there to all 50k. And there's a shroomish there if anyone wants to try and catch it. I'm going to give it a go now. Because why not? I don't have Pokeballs. I don't know how many Pokeballs I've left. I also fixed song requests as it's working again. I just played this in memory of Justin Shots to feel bad. Oh, I caught that shroomish. That was not the point of that. Alright, anyway. Song requests are working again, so we got that all Gucci. And there's an event on tonight. Something to do with like the mayor trying to transport the tax funds. So I'm kind of intrigued to see what's going on there, see what the event's about. I've kind of been forewarned though, I might be a bit underarmed, but hey, that'll just make this funnier. It'll just make it funnier. So let's go to the game screen, let's get into it. You guys got 2 minutes to do that raffle as well. Make sure you guys use the exclamation mark join. And welcome on in everyone. Thank you guys all for joining the stream. Let me turn this overlay off. Yeah, I've been fucking around with settings and stuff to see if I can get this to run well. And maybe it's even worth having the FPS up in the top left corner, just so I have an idea. I've capped it at 60, so 60 is fine, but how you doing, Raven? What's crack-a-lackin' with you Friday? I was at work today, I was getting cooked in concrete. Right. Lock the car, seatbelt on, and we have dark chat on our phone. With the link to see what's going on. So let's have a little read through this. The mayor is moving the tax funds this week. She's burned me for the last time, and I'm done being a fall guy. I'll be dropping intel here as I get it. Keep your eyes on the streets and your ears open. The city's about to get a lot more expensive for her. The move is definitely happening this Friday. Word from the office is the mayor is acting paranoid. She's nervous, like someone tipped her off. Expect a heavy police presence. If you're planning to move on this, I'd suggest bringing heavy firepower and plenty of friends. It's about to get loud. Fresh word from City Hall. The mayor is pissed. Apparently the stash at Roxwood was lighter than she expected. She's changing the play. They're making a stop at Harmony Bank on the way to load up the rest. The pot just got a lot bigger, but so did the target on that truck. Be ready. Alright, here's the final leg of the route. She's satisfied with the stash at Harmony. The convoy is heading straight for the principal bank. Word is she's spooked enough that she's requested military-grade protection to meet them at the destination. Steering clear of the bank itself is your best bet. Once that truck hits the bay, the stash is untouchable. Ambush them on the route, or don't bother at all. Oh shit, there's a new one! Oh, just as we're looking at it. That's good timing. We're trying to get my hands on the exact route for the convoy. The mayor is keeping it close to her chest. She isn't even briefing the drivers until the engines are running. Taking a massive risk tonight. I'm going to attempt to break in the mayor's office. Security is tight as hell, but if I can get past the cameras, I'll try to find physical files or logs on the timing and route. Wish me luck. If you don't hear from me for a bit, you know why. I managed to get a map out of the mayor's office tonight, but it wasn't without casualty. The map is a bit dirty, but the information is clear. The convoy's start time is locked in at 8:30. And that's when the loot will be on the move. Bad news is I couldn't get a damn thing on the route for the first half of the run. I suggest planning a move after they hit Harmony Bank. That's where the trail picks up. One last thing. I have a special gift for anyone who can bring the mayor unharmed. Get the loot from the convoy, snatch her up and bring her directly to me. Do this and I promise you won't regret it. Let's strip her of everything. This sounds like it's going to be quite interesting, but the plays that we can make are very slim. I've got a bunch of lockpicks at a crowbar. So I might call old Jimmy Fletcher and see if he can give us a hand, eh? So we're going to link up for a couple of people. And congratulations there, Raven, too, on winning that raffle. Give him a ring. Hopefully he's around. Yeah, g'day, Jimmy, mate.
Oh, what's going on, Marcus, mate?
Oh, you know, just kicking back at the Vespucci markets, yeah.
Are you selling glazed holes?
What was that? Sorry, mate.
Are you selling glazed holes?
Oh, I could sell some glazed holes, mate. You want a glazed hole, do you?
Yeah, down at the donut shop, yeah.
Oh, fuck, no, that's not me, mate. No.
You don't. Fuck me.
Well, I can't get you no glazed holes, mate. You hang out at the fucking casino enough, you should be covered in glazed holes by now, mate.
You'd think so, but
Oh shit, I know I'm driving down here.
definitely not.
Definitely
What do you
not.
all know?
Well, look, mate, I'm sussing out this fucking. Have you seen this shit around the city or this graffiti about the mayor?
Yeah, I've seen that. Man, fucking old mate here going.
Oh, who's old matey?
Want to jump in?
Yeah, I've got a nice quick V, hey.
We've got a quick vehicle as well.
Well, fuck, do you want to meet up and talk about this on person in case they're listening, mate?
Yeah, we'll be there soon then.
Well, no, send us a location, mate, and I'll meet you, eh?
I'll meet you at the glazed holes.
The glazed holes? Alright, I'll wait there and look at glazed holes.
Alright.
Speak to you. Hey, look at that, we're linking up. This shit does seem rough. So no parking area, so let's not get in trouble. I don't think glazed holes is even open. I'll show you guys he's talking about too. Alright, he's not tripping. Not just saying weird shit at me. No, actually, it may have found a spot to, yeah, the glazed holes this year, isn't it? Or is it around the corner here somewhere? Am I tripping? That's the fish shop, isn't it? No, it's the same thing as the glazed hole, I suppose. Don't quote that. But yeah, no, so I did find a spot where you could probably craft weapons, right? Right. So that was like something I was like thinking, fuck yeah. Thing is, but I got no shit to craft the weapons with, man. I got no like blueprints. I got no fucking, got no fucking, that's a nice car. Got no fucking like blueprints and that. Hey Zeke, you're not that late, brother. It's only 15 minutes, but that's okay. Gangsters get scared, that's alright. Yeah, g'day Jimmy, mate, how are you? Who's this fella?
Not too, mate. Oh, mate, but Will Balls.
Will Balls.
Yeah, will your balls fit my mouth?
Oh, both a pair of dickheads, more like. Hey, Trick's late, not pregnant. Exactly right, brother. So, have you heard about this mayor business?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, on it.
Take her out. I'm gonna keep her alive.
He's quiet as fuck.
Are you ready to sacrifice everything you have?
I'm fucking ready, mate. I'm fucking ready. I look ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I've got fuck all. I've only got a crowbar.
You
Don't
better do
buy a
better than
pistol.
that, mate.
Well, how can I get one of them?
That's fucking the cord of the houses.
You gotta go get your gun license.
Go get my gun license, you can just buy, oh, then I can just buy one. Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
You got money?
Yeah, I got a beard.
You looking at?
Oh, sorry, I got a bit distracted there.
Yeah, right.
Trying to steal our shoes, eh?
Yeah, I was. Alright. Well, fuck, I've got a decent car around the corner here, just there parked up here when I sussed it out with me. I armoured it up.
Have you got money to buy a gun, though?
Yeah, I've got like fucking 20 grand or something.
How much?
20.
40.
20.
Yeah, that might be enough.
I got 7 on me.
Huh?
Got 7 on me, and in my bank I've got 11k, so I've got about 18. How you doing, Dan? How you doing, Chappie? How you doing, Zeke?
With cash. Only,
Yeah.
I think.
Bought this well, fella.
I don't even, how much was the license for this bad boy of a gun? Fucking.
I think it was like 15k.
Yeah, fuck, I've only got 18.
Yeah. You know this, mate. This is my
5K
extra winnings
for a
from last
gun.
night.
Oh, I'm getting the money. Yeah, that's why, mate. It would be. Oh, you're a fucking legend, mate.
At the pokies, mate. I win too much at the pokies, alright?
Right, so I should go get a gun license, grab a pistol. Fucking, what? Can I jump in with you boys? You want to jump in this car? I don't know. I think this one would be a bit quicker.
Fuck, man. I don't mind. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's up to,
good.
whoa, how quick does this go, mate? And is it about speed? That's the question.
Yeah, it's pretty bloody quick, mate.
Pretty about quick. Yeah, this one I think is about 240, 230.
I feel like this one might be a little bit better because it's like bigger, bulky.
Bigger, bulkier, better for off-road. And I'll put this in the garage then and I'll fucking copyright a few boys. Alright, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, can you see how this goes down as well? Especially from our perspective. With pistols though, fuck, not a lot of firepower. Not a lot of firepower. I set the music for myself too, chat. You guys can still hear it, but it's just too loud for me. I couldn't hear buddy. Oh, Willie. That car does look mad. I like my car. I'm keen to do street racing.
Funny question, fucking quiz about gun safety.
Headset was turned down. It'll probably help.
Why do you have so many jerry cans?
What, so
Don't
is
worry about it.
it 20 questions?
Exactly. Oh, I'm sorry. Right, it's gonna take you like
Sorry.
5 minutes. I'll be mad.
So it's had the wrong overlay on for some reason. That's annoying. That should be it sorted, but... Do you think we'd be a bit underpowered with pistols in here?
So what?
Do you think you'd be a bit underpowered with pistols in here or what?
I don't know.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
You know, well, I wonder what it is. I wonder who that big fella is, eh? Old cheap Meister. Wasn't it? It was the other side, wasn't it? License services. This is where I got my car license because I was a good boy. I decided I wanted to get a driver's license and not get fucking annihilated by the cops. Not right. Firearms license. You are a civilian. You decide to carry a registered firearm on your person while walking through the city. No open carry. Registered firearm. Store it securely. Boop. It takes so long just reading it and figure out which one's the dumb answers, right, and getting the right one. Purchase firearm, but do not register it with Police Victoria. Illegal. Illegal. I'm assuming it's just not that one. I'm just it's bad me. Purchase ammunition or firearm parts. Yeah. Is it just the bottom left one, bro? Surely not. Actually, it's just the bottom left, dude. It actually just was the bottom left. Alright, don't take advice from me on how to do your exams. Surely that should be randomized.
How many of us can work together on this, you reckon?
Well, it's a good question. Well, what kind of thing is this? We're trying to fucking basically kidnap the mayor or break in one of these armor guard trucks, I'm assuming.
Did you get your gun license?
Yeah, I got the gun license and yeah. Well, quick question actually, fucking, is it is all the questions in the bottom left?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think every answer was in the bottom left.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I also noticed that too.
Alright, and just grab yourself a pistol and away we go, eh?
Yeah, wait here, yeah.
How much are they for me? Like 10 grand, 15 grand or something?
I think it's like 5 for the gun. How much you got?
Oh, I got enough, I think. I'll be back if I don't. These guys are fucking nice, sorting us out with cash. They did not have to do that. Although I did know that if I called them up, that they'd probably help us out. That's 5 Gs. I think I have enough for this. How many bullets do we take? Take 300, lad. 300, 1500 bucks. Definitely worth it. Wait, do you need just cash? Surely you can use... Oh, I've got to go to an ATM. Gotta go to an ATM. Don't have enough cash on me, it's in my bank. There's an ATM around the corner, I think. Bloody annoying that is.
I think we need to go to a bank, don't we?
No, to withdraw money, you can do it from an ATM. To deposit, you need a fucking,
Look, you can go from the servo.
Oh, is it? Yeah, there is one in the 7 shooters arena around the corner, my bad. Old Chippy, eh? Old Jimmy Fletcher. He's done something to himself, though. I don't know what's happened. He's gone bald. Jimmy Fletcher's he's ruined his appearance. Definitely wise. Drink a coffee. Fucking 8 o'clock at night too. I'm trying to keep myself awake. Right, it should be right. Well, look down here. Yeah, boom. Yeah, sweet. Let's go. I bought 300 bullets.
Oh, that's plenty.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was the wise thing to do, you know. G'day, view, but how are you? Welcome into the stream.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, sir.
I'm going to lose them all straight away anyway, eh?
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
But welcome to the stream. It's Crack Like with you Friday. Let's work out schools. That's what you did. There's an event on tonight. We got to fucking rob the mayor, I believe. I need more playtime? No way! Bro! I've been done dirty. I have to give them the money and give them to trade me a gun. Slight problem, gentlemen. I'm not quite old enough to get yourself a gun yet. You don't know if I give you $5 and you guys buy yourself another gun.
Yeah, he'll do it.
Yeah, because yeah, Jimmy, go and buy us a gun. Give us the one you got on you.
What's that? My fucking radio, so like, oi!
Jimmy, you fucking deaf cunt. What are you doing? Jimmy, you deaf cunt. What are you doing? Jimmy!
My fucking radio is going off.
Jimmy's a fucking deaf cunt. Jimmy, he's gonna buy me a gun. Jimmy!
Hello?
Fuck. Is my mic not working? How you doing, Mr. Raw? I'm a Danny Don.
Torbeck and myself.
Wee.
Is he a part of the game?
No, these two aren't.
Hey.
Wait, are you?
Jimmy!
What?
Jimmy!
Oh, son.
I gave you $5 for a gun. You're gonna go buy a gun, you fucking fool.
Why can't you buy the gun?
Because I'm not old enough. I said it when I got the car. Go buy the gun. Fuck.
Not old enough. You fucking what?
Hey, Jimmy, you have a gun license? Hey, I'll give you $1,000. Can you go and buy me 200 rounds?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Chuffing how you doing though, Mr. Raw? Fuck me. I just needed him to give me his pistol and buy me another one. He's a fucking space cadet, that Jimmy.
Yeah, he's bloody hopeless.
Bloody hopeless.
He's bloody hopeless.
Fucking going off at him.
I've just given $1,000 to Willie's son. He's gonna buy me some.
No, he's got me some ammo, but
Wee, son.
My son, what's my son doing?
holy fuck, are you guys a gang or something? What the fuck's going on here?
Oh, a little bit.
Little bit of this, bit of that, bit of crack or something, eh?
Yeah, that's why I'm going to try to work out the numbers, but I'm not quite sure if I can bring you along or not.
Oh, true. I can't be a friend.
I'm not sure.
Nah, it's under fuck. You guys the pinkies or something?
Let's go see what they're fucking talking about in here.
Yeah, let's go. It was actually chill for what the stream was.
Yeah, 2.5, I think.
2.5. Okay, dokie. 4.5.
Oh, Jimmy's the gun dealer
Oh,
now.
no, 1.25. 1.25.
You trying to fucking scam me, motherfucker?
Give me money.
He's in the business of scamming this Jimmy fella.
There you go. Hey, I'm not scamming anyone. Oh, hey, Zeke.
Oh, yeah, of course he was chuffing.
1.25. Huh?
I thought it was 1,000.
You get so cheap.
For 200. It's $5 per round, so 200 bullets equals $1,000.
I just bought 300 for $1,500 if that helps anybody.
Trying to fucking swig me for $250.
Did you give the ammo, son?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I can't though. Come here.
What's the fucking black chat for this thing?
It is. Let me look here.
Let me give you more, sorry.
Mayor's big move.
There's big moves.
Yeah. With spaces.
Is that all in one, by the way?
You got.
Thank you.
You have my pistol too, Jimmy, mate?
What was it, man? What was it, sorry?
Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not old enough. You were saying that I hope my passport's too young, you know what I'm saying, mate? So if I can't get a pistol.
You don't look a day over 40.
I've got a
Actually, you're pretty on the money on 46, mate.
Do you give me money for ammo as well or no?
No, I had ammo. Let me buy ammo. Just wouldn't let me buy fucking a gun.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, we have the map route. The map route's on 30.
Shit. Try and get this all down.
It's going up past La Fuente Blanca, up to
Load this gun up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, I need to buy. Do you have an armor plate thing?
Oh no, I don't, mate. Fuck, would that be helpful?
the Melbourne City Council.
It's a.
I'm Birdie.
Holy shit. We could get on off if you guys can chat too.
No.
Alright.
Okay.
Oh,
Can you
fuck,
buy
yeah.
one?
I need armor too, shit.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be a bit
armor
on.
plate carrier.
Yeah, I think you can buy the plate carriers,
I
can you?
can. Hold on.
But you can get plate carriers from here.
Yeah, get a plate carrier, and if you can buy some armor as well.
Yeah, it's not
Armor plate.
Oh fuck yeah.
Can I come with you?
Well, how do you use this fucking thing? You just put the plates on or what?
Yeah, oh, it's only 25. Don't use more than 2 armor plates.
Alright,
Use
alright.
one.
Can I come still or have you decided?
I don't know. I don't. Wait.
Yeah.
These two come with us or not?
How many of us are there? Hold on, let me double check. Hold on.
Probably should have got more armor, but we'll be right.
Sit back and give you.
Oh, thank you, mate. Thank you.
Chilling.
I'm a bit of a brokey, eh? You're not gonna lie.
Yeah, nah, they won't be able to come, unfortunately, if it's us for doing it. They'll have to do it.
Sorry, boys. So where do you want me to drop this off?
Just take us back down to the Vespucci Markets. My car's down there.
Yeah, that's fine. We're dropping them off. They go get the car. You know what? You know what? After the salt goes down, we can maybe get the village. Yeah, we see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even get to meet you guys.
Any what?
Food or water?
No.
No,
I got water.
none either.
Yeah.
Thanks for the lift there, Will.
There
Good
you
luck,
go.
guys.
Thank you.
I told you, Daddy. It won't be over. I promise. I'll see you again.
I just fully armored up this sucker too, so at least it'll be a bit safer.
Yeah, we got this. Remember, don't shoot the Ranger pussy. Right?
Don't shoot the ring. Alright, so where the fuck, where we're going? Do you know the fucking, do I just try and follow these cunts quickly?
Yeah.
I've already lost them. Went that way, I think. I'm gonna lose my voice doing this fucking voice.
Fuck, yeah, we might go fine.
Yeah, no, so what's it saying that old sack jack there? It was fucking something about harmony, right? So fucking, you wanna read that sack jack? You're in it, eh?
I'm not in it, fuck.
Oh, it's Mayor's big move. You want me to sort you out?
Oh, fuck.
Well, I need a points man, mate. Either you're gonna do these messages or what? Or I'll drive, or you drive and I'll do the messages.
Yeah, I'll drive if you want. If I can, I'll read the messages. Do you read the messages? Fuck.
Yeah, fuck. I don't want you driving my car. That's the only thing, Jimmy, mate. I fucking plugged you in the Ford, I think.
Fuck. I'll get it sorted.
No, do you need me to help you out back there, Jimmy, mate?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's Mayor's big move, right?
Oh, I actually fuck my back. I need to get the.
Yep.
Okay. I promise.
Mate, you don't have the dark chat,
Fuck. Look, I forgot. Honestly.
You forgot? Fuck, how do you even know about this fucking thing going on tonight, mate? Just talking to that wheel fella.
Yeah.
Fuck me, you're so out of the know. Why am I stuck with you? Fuck.
Fuck. Yeah. Look, it is what it is.
Oh, fuck, it is what it is. Fuck. Whatever it is. That's a good little reference. And good on you, Mr. Rolf, the gamble, mate. Nice. All the slots. You won. I think odds on that. I need to fix that up. I need to get dark chat downloaded, mate.
I'm down. Done. Ready.
Alright, sweet. So it's May's big move, right? And it's MAYORS. With a space. Yeah. No, what?
O-I-S.
Whoa, no. It was MAYORS. ORS.
Yep.
Yep, space.
Yep.
Big space move.
Alright, big. Done.
You got it big. Now look for locations and routes.
There is no location beside a lot of messages. Let me read.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Here and there, yeah. I didn't touch the odds, but I didn't fuck with him. I didn't fuck with him. You just got lots of money.
Rockspeed was lighter than she expected. She changed the play, making her stop at Harmony Bank on the way to load up the rest. The pot got a lot bigger.
Yeah, mate. So they're coming from Roxwood to Harmony, is what I gathered from that, right?
Yeah. Roxwood to Harmony.
Yep.
But then, the final leg of the route, she's satisfied with at Harmony. The convoy is heading straight to the principal bank, where she's spoken enough that she's requested military-grade protection to meet them at the destination. Steering clear of the bank itself is your best bet. Once the truck hits the base, the stash is untouchable. Ambush them on the route, or don't be bothered at all.
So I have a feeling they're going to come from Roxwood to Harmony, and then probably come the way we're going now to Principal, or up the road to our right, just here. We see another person in front of us. Look at that.
There's a lot of messages still. I haven't got to. There's still like 4 more.
Yeah, it's somebody else. Hello.
Hi.
It's a nice car you got there.
Hey.
Thanks, Paul. I just spent all my mum's money.
Yeah, I spent all my money on this sucker.
Yes, bro. Otherwise?
Yeah, let's go. To the end of Route 6. Oh, he's a dog.
Cheated.
Yeah, he cheated that. Oh my god, that car's fast. That thing is fucking quick, man. He's gone. I need to drink more water. I was doing this voice. Holy shit. I'm actually going to die. You didn't see any movement, did you, at Harmony as you cruised past it? So I reckon I'm gonna loop around to Roxwood. Oh!
What I will say, the last 2 messages is, I managed to get a map out of the mayor's office tonight, but there wasn't wolf casualty. The information is clear. The convoy start time is locked in 8:30. That's when the loot will be on the move. Bad news is I couldn't get a damn thing on the route first half of the run. I was just planning a move after they hit Harmony Bank. That's where the trail picks up. So it's going to be in Harmony.
Yep.
That's where we kind of want to look at, but also it could be a throw-off. But if we can get the mayor to whoever this person is unharmed, we get a special gift.
I don't know how it looks for you guys on stream, but I'm feeling a lack of blinks right now. Lack of frames. Yeah, right. Well, I'm gonna take this to get repaired at this little truck place up here, and we'll go camp up across the road from Harmony Bank somewhere. Turn the lights off from this.
I kind of feel like maybe a Harmony might be a throw-off, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be, but you're better off trying to chase whatever's going on. We might not even be able to do anything from the peripheral, unless it's on the peripheral. Sorry.
We only got pit. We can.
Yeah.
Want to get out for this?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. I'm framing out. What's going on? Have I done something silly to my computer? A quick check. Off, yes. Turn that off. Draw performance. GPU's maxing. But I fixed it. I'm gonna leave this up for stream just in case, because I don't want shit to wig out. I'm just gonna keep that up. I don't like having it up there because it's like ugly, but I think it's needed just so I can see what's going on. If we have what's the issues are while we're getting into the issues.
Nothing else. It's been back and said. It's
been a few minutes now, so I reckon we'll go sit at Harmony. We'll turn the lights off for this. Yeah, mate, yeah. Well, there was one that came in at like 8 o'clock, basically. 10 past 8. Yeah, I was reading it as it popped in.
people here. Hopefully they're there still.
Yo, I don't think they would have come past here just yet. Trying to think where's the best spot to sit.
They're all in Harmony still. Actually, they probably won't go in the city. Might be a bit weird in the city.
What I'm thinking is we can watch the bank from one of these hills just here. Wait, we're not banking Harmony, but as in watch Harmony.
That's right. We could go like to the straight in front of us to the left up there.
Yeah, exactly right. Like this thing's a boat on the dirt.
Huh? Is anyone there actually still?
Yeah, it's not illegal driving the road, mate. I've got a license now, so I'm all good.
Yeah.
See any movement?
Got people here before.
Go down the road. That Pokemon scared the shit out of me. It's like a dude on there and chat. I was not trying to catch it. There's that Lambo. That's a good sign, but I don't think they've seen anything yet. There's this radio tower over here. We can always sit up the back of the hill behind, like, you know, where the racetrack is and that. Like up around here.
Yeah, I wouldn't say both areas.
Oh, you tried to catch Falcon, you got done dirty. You need to get some Pokeballs, mate. They cost like 5k chips each. Exclamation mark buy item, space Pokeball, space the amount of Pokeballs you want to buy. What you need to do, my brother. How you doing, Mr. Falcon? It's cracker lacking with your Friday. I was working, that's not that's what you did, G. It's not a bad spot to watch down from. If there's any movement, we're going to see it from here.
Oh, 100%.
Turned the car off, and now we're bush camping.
Having fuel, mate.
Actually, I need to buy fuel. Thanks for that call.
Got 64. You're looking good.
Yeah. I always like to have a full tank just in case, you know.
That's right.
Did I finish my coffee?
What's gonna happen? Fuck.
I hear a car. It just went up that way. That was that Lambo leaving, I think.
What, on the left? I saw nothing.
I heard it and then seen the rear taillights of it.
Should we follow someone, maybe just in case we lose where it is?
Of course. Just thinking that. Took a little longer than I would have liked to. I'll go back on the road.
Been like 13 minutes past since it said it was going to come here. It's taken that long to come here.
Yeah, I've got a few repair kits on me too, so we should be Gucci in that sense, but fucking bit airy.
Definitely.
We'll drive down the road and come back.
How many banks just here?
See nothing there, eh?
That's the hospital, that's not the bank.
Emergency, there's the bloody City Hall.
What are the chances like all this shit's happening in City Hall?
Well, this is all Harmony, this stretch of road, right? Oh fuck, stop in the middle of the road too, speaking of it.
Yeah.
But Principal, what's the quickest way to Principal? It's either left here or the next left. Which way would they take it for a fucking fight? Which way would they drive it? You reckon the police would probably go this way, I reckon, but I'm not sure.
I reckon the police would want to go this way.
I see quick taillights up here. You can go through the hills just here. You come out at Principal.
This one's a hard one.
Yeah, the rough thing is, it's not being on any, what's it called? Fucking, like, radios or nothing, so there's no shared info, nothing.
Yeah, it's just us two yet. And we've got nothing, no updates.
Yeah, you have a car, you could even do it, you could get in a car each, do a radio.
Yeah, fuck yeah, if you want.
Yeah, it's up to you, bud, isn't it? Do you think it's even going to be helpful? We're probably better off together, aren't we?
Probably if we do find like where it is.
2 dickheads is better than 1 dickhead, surely.
You'd like to think so. You would like to think so.
Maybe the dickheads negate each other out, you know, like negative plus a negative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Nah.
Actually, a pair of geniuses, mate.
2 brains, 1 car. Oh my god. We're pretty much normal.
No, I think between us we have a brain.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah, exactly.
So it's come straight out of principle, see? We got nothing but... You hear sirens? Nothing.
No. So quiet.
Very quiet. Go the highway back, mate. Actually, there's a car over here waiting. Just here right now. So there's people posted up waiting for this to come through at certain points.
Yeah, I'd probably say so.
Yeah, he's fixing his car down there.
Definitely a couple of groups looking around.
There's a police helicopter over there to the right.
Oh, yeah, no, I swear over the top. Has to be over there.
Yeah.
The helicopter.
Follow the helicopter. Oh!
That tune.
Sorry, mate.
Oh, I see.
Is that a local?
No, that can't be. It is.
Not a local, is it?
I think it might be. No. Yeah. No. No. It's circled back around that building. Yeah, it's going straight up. No, that's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not.
Follow that helicopter. He's going straight right here. Pretty far, so he's gone. Barely see him.
I'm fucking lagging out too.
Oh, fuck. I think he's going too high. Can't see him.
Let's go back towards
Can't see him
Harmony.
in front of us.
What is with this?
Maybe get back to where we saw the helicopter. Maybe that was like a little hint.
Maybe. I reckon we're better off going back towards Harmony and holding out there for a few minutes. Yeah, we'll go back past where the heli
We
was.
can definitely do that. Just a little quick squeeze over here, which is nothing.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Bubs.
This is the other way I think they'd go. I don't think they'd go on the highway, surely. It's funny, on stream, it looks smoother than it does for me.
I can't see no helicopter, so yeah.
Yeah, they said military grade vehicles, not police grade, to be fair as well. But that, I reckon that was a police chopper. Oh, come out of the city, look much nicer. The city doesn't like me.
No doubt the police will be fucking there anyway. Fucking military police, they're gonna be handling it. Oh no.
Oh, you're right.
Fuck. I'm alright. I think I look a little bit better at the
What,
moment.
hey, is that Willie's car?
It is. Yeah, it is. It is. It is.
It is. It is.
Go to him. Pull up.
Who's that?
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, buddy.
Have you guys seen anything?
Nah, fuck all, which is annoying.
Alright.
We saw a police helicopter in the city, but then they left and we
Yeah.
never saw it.
We're just going back to Harmony to have a look now.
I'm trying to follow these fucking maps and all this shit. I don't know anything. Annoying.
Yeah, very.
Map tells you nothing.
Yeah, on fucking Birdie, there's like a map that like we're here.
Oh,
I'm Birdie.
I love my job.
Yeah, good on Birdie, I don't know.
You're going down the highway.
Yeah, holy shit, that's coming down the highway now towards us.
No, going past us.
Nah, it looks like it's going north.
Yeah, but past us. That's got to be going up towards Roxford.
Yeah, now, hold on a minute.
16.
What is with this? Alright then,
I see
well,
what you're saying, though. I see what you're saying.
That was ages ago. That could be fucking anywhere.
that's the actual route. Gotcha. And you haven't seen Scott. Alright, well, we'll go sit over at Harmony see if we can see anything.
Yeah, alright.
Enjoy, gentlemen.
Alright.
Bye.
Right, the Harmony it is then back to where we were sitting.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it starts at the city now, looking at that map, and it ends up there.
No. They said in the post it's going down the principal. That would be them 16 minutes ago driving up to pick up the load.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. Maybe we should stay around this area as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay just here. I might get fuel quickly up around the corner though, because there's a petrol station on the left there.
Yeah, you're right. I was getting confused for a sec. I didn't even realize about that Birdie shit, not gonna lie.
No, neither did I, mate. Neither did I. So even if we wait here, we're still gonna see him come past us.
Yeah, we definitely would have. You can't feel here, can you?
Yeah, you can. I'm just pulling up.
You want to jump out?
No, you're right, mate.
Give me 2 minutes, mate.
Cheapy having to run away, as always, the cheeky bastard, eh? A good raffle for you guys to chat. We've generally seen none, but they already been hit. That's the other question. I thought if anyone's hit them, though, it'd be them, right? So we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, someone's speeding around. Could repair our car, but I think we'll be right. I like that hilly spot we were on because you can see a fair bit from up there. Just here. My daily rewards already. Mad. Most sit up here in the trees, but because then we can just sprint down and see anything. Let me get these daily rewards quickly. I think they'll be ready straight away. Oh, 3 hour playtime. That's what it's for. Mad. I'll take that. Oh, that's getting an AP pistol. No way. There is no way. Mad. What the fucking chances of that? That's actually hectic luck. I'm definitely keeping that for the fucking future. Fragger bros, yeah, let's go. If you can't frag nothing, you can't see it, bud, ain't you? What do you reckon, Daniel? Where's Nev? Where's Nev coming up with the fuck around for this? Just get out of the car and be like, fuck you, Jimmy. Last time you win a fight against me. Never wouldn't fit in. Don't kidnap me. I like my newfound weaponry, alright? I just fucking spent good hard-earned chippies money on all this, alright? Alright, not with my own money. How you doing though, Thomas? Let's crack a lacking with your Friday, mate. It was work. It was quick home. That's what you did. G-Star. Raffle's ending too. You guys missed out. No one entered. Get dogged. No, but Viewbot got onto the YouTube one. He's just been collecting all of these. I'm assuming. Yeah, nice Viewbot. What are the odds? You reckon these guys have got hit already? I reckon that's what's happened. I put this too high as well on my face. Then fuck the boom off, put it on the other side. I reckon these guys got hit already. I hope not. Yeah, it is rigged, lad. Rigged against you. 2 minutes, my ass, Jimmy. Two minutes, my ass. I won on the small bet too. Oh, hold on. That's a truck. No loss. See, look at that. Rigged against you. I don't know if I should sit up here, but I just seen a truck. Four-wheel driving around the place.
My bad.
Yeah, you're right, mate. I seen a truck up here, but it was a fucking civilian. You know, we're not person.
Sounds about right. Fucking hell.
Fucking hell, indeed. I'm saying sweet fuck all. There's an axe in that tree. What the fuck?
Huh?
Look at that tree on the left, mate. There's an accident.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I reckon I'm strong enough to grab it.
Yeah, go grab it. See if I can have a fucking look. That was Willie and then just cruising past.
Too weak. Fuck.
We said two cars cruised past us.
Saw that. Gone to the left.
Fuck, I cannot drive, cunt.
I mean, fuck, honestly, it should be gone, like, up towards... Oh, no, it's like gonna be here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were going towards the city. That's why I wanted, if I go this way to cut them off, but if they just went up to Roxwood, we just fucking cut ourselves off, basically.
I mean, that map that they show us, though, like, it's from up here.
Yeah, it was that Will fella, and fucking, who was it, Wee, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
Anything new on that dark chat?
Nothing. No.
Nah, empty, alright.
Still nothing. The last text was fucking half an hour ago.
Yeah, right. I don't think go too far.
Man, they wouldn't.
He's been past someone. He just left. I'm gonna go back and talk to him.
Hey man, do you want to talk?
Nah, he's gone. I'm letting him go. I'm not chasing someone.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Are you on the dark chat as well?
Oh, I am. I've seen nothing either. You get noties, I'm pretty sure, anyway.
Yeah. Have you read it all?
Yeah, I read it all.
Yeah. Right. Let's just double checking. You know, just
Yeah.
fucking my stupid English words didn't work out here.
No, what you were saying earlier too, I guess, helped. But I kind of forgot what I read, to be fair, so I was like, can you read it again while I'm driving?
Fucking, oh no, fucking weird.
Definitely weird. So I just sent a car cruise behind the fucking where the cash cleaning place normally is. A person standing on the side of the road? It's a biker, I think. Oh, there's some cunt in the fucking lifted. Look at that.
Oh, that's fucking Julio, the one.
Oh, that Will fella, Will Bar.
Yeah.
Oh, helicopter. You hear the helicopter? See it? You see it?
Oh, I see it. Oh my god, yes, we're in position.
I say a heli. Is that them coming in here then?
Fuck, it's got. Oh, it's that one. Stay hidden. Yeah. Just in case I want to fuck.
Yeah, there's a bunch coming up the bottom of the road here.
I wonder if we can shoot that helicopter or not.
Well, I've got a fucking AP now.
Fucking, who are you?
Oh, Marcus Jugadorez, motherfucker! I don't know if I should shoot this helicopter or not, but...
I don't know if you should either.
Yeah, I think I will.
I think we should go follow. The cops, armor truck, I see you. Get in. They're going to the right of us, down the main road. Oh, fucking yeah, you're marked, but you can't unlock the fucking car. They're to our right, on the hill.
Yeah. On the...
Going to the right.
Yeah, the right. Like up here.
Yeah, okay, that's where everyone's going, and the
Yeah, it's in the
cars
cars.
to our left, up there.
Gotcha.
Main road.
I see it now. Yeah, they're pulling up. We'll get on this hill. The heli's on top of us. I don't want to get right underneath this fucking thing.
Okay.
There we go, road.
Oh, I can't see heli. Oh, I see it.
Yeah, they're all on the dune buggies coming around the back here.
He's coming towards us.
That's because he's doing buggies through here. See, look. Let's stay in the back of these cunts.
Yeah.
We're going back to our bush. That was a good spot because they're going to come past us anyway.
Yeah. We can hide for a bit. What can we see? What can we see?
I can see these two in the trees there too. There's the dune buggy, and then there's almost like a jeep. There's a bunch of cops. They're running down. They're attacking now. They're going in.
I see a lot of cops down there.
I don't think that's cops. Is that them coming in? Nah, that's cops. Holy shit.
They're all down there. All them cops are down there till.
Yeah, I just thought that was them running in. That's why I drove away. Fuck that. I'm getting back in the bush.
There's heaps of cops. There's heaps of cops down there. I'm trying to get these blockers out of your fucking glove box here, mate. See?
My what? Well, binoculars, yeah. No, I finished my water. His voice must be fucking me. Are they going in for the kill as well, but? We have cameras on our phones? We do. Oh no, that's fucking terrible. Open this and get rid of that up. Oh, it's already shut. Sweet. So I got one piece of armor left. I'm gonna switch this over. F3 for video. Oh, what? Why don't we do that? What do you mean for video, Chippy? You don't have to explain it. Oh, they're moving. They're moving, but... Yeah, they're moving, mate.
Yeah, fuck, alright.
They're gonna come past us in a second. Do you want to maybe take tyres?
Fuck, I mean, I'm probably not right here next to this fucking tree. Maybe behind the house.
No, because the tree, they're gonna come past on the highway, bro.
Oh, yeah, you're right above us.
Yeah, you fucking spinner.
Watch out, they don't come behind us.
Dome buggies up in front.
I'm just gonna shoot the first cop car. Or the second.
Yeah, I don't think I did either, but we would have just distracted the shit out of him. Oh, hello, mate.
Hey.
Is he alright? He looks dead in that car.
Nah, I think he's good.
Should we just try and catch up? I guess so.
I'm getting my gun out there.
Get your gun out. I don't think I can aim and drive, can I?
Oh, I can. I think.
Oh shit! Gunfight! Get in the cover. Where are they? It's right in. Oh, heavy fire. We got no shots from back here.
Yes, get me in. Oh my god. Go. Run. Drive. Oh my.
What the fuck was that? Was that a 50 cal cut?
I don't know. I got hit so fucking hard. I can't use my med kit.
Armoring up. Holy fuck, are they all dead back there?
Yeah, they're fucked.
Enjoyed your stream. I don't want to ask you.
Well, I was shooting them.
You can add my Discord if you want, but if it's
left if you want.
you're trying to promote something, I'm not too sure, though, bro.
Armor's done nothing.
Yeah, I've got armor on, but I'm gonna try and rotate around on the dirt, actually. How you doing, Kelly Ben? Thank you for the fucking follow. Let's crack a lackin'.
Like towards the racetrack area.
Racetrack.
Yeah, that's where they were.
Yeah, hold on, we can probably just do a quick shorty.
On the main.
Let's crack a lackin' with you Friday. I was work our scores, that's what you did. We're just in the middle of a fucking gunfight, trying our best not to get clamped.
We should maybe try to follow them though, still like close by.
Yeah, no, what I'm gonna try and do is wrap through here.
What car we're in, I think they know that people are shooting.
Get my viewers today, sign up here for Only Dan's OnlyFans. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for the promotion, you're too on kick, but look, if you guys want to add me on Discord, so scratch my Discord in chat, send us a fucking friend request and I might add you back.
Hands on me fucking arms, really fucking yelling.
Oh yeah, oh, we get shot at again, is that sniper shots?
No, I don't, what? Oh, fucking duck. Duck.
I swear it is fucking sniper shots, cunt.
I'm ducking. I can't see no helicopter.
That cock is big, it is on that Only Dan side.
Helicopter I can see is nowhere.
We come through this the concrete place up here.
Oh yeah, up the right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't see fucking nothing at the moment.
You better see in the trees in a second here. I see the cars down here still. Keep your head low,
Yeah.
I see cop cars. They're still fighting,
Cops.
Helicopters on top of us, I'm going to drive to the right.
There's still cops on the hill. There's cops on the hill.
Behind us, back where we were. Oh, they're flanked on the hill.
right,
Yeah, gotcha.
Yep, see 'em.
Yeah, is that what you got flanked by?
Yep.
Gotcha. Alright, let's go up the road so we can do anything from the top of the road and come down. But I think we're fucking vastly outnumbered here.
Fuck.
Is that more cop cars or is that just construction vehicles?
Nah, construction.
We Gucci here.
Yeah, try and give us on the road a bit more.
Is that, it's the...
There's just one cop.
Is the heli coming down? There's one cop in the center there.
Watch your left, just watch your left. Can't see anyone on the left up there.
I do see two cops in the center, one on the right there, he's hiding on trees.
Like what, past that jeep on the right?
Yeah, he's aiming on us now. He's in the trees underneath the helicopter.
I see him.
It is was like peeking, they're getting in the cars, I think.
I see him, he's going back to he's on the heli, I think. He's on the heli, I think. We could probably get him.
I'm gonna go down.
He's on, no heli. He's on the car.
This far left is probably the only push that's safe, but we're probably fucked here.
And then we can get some shots again on distance if we want, and then I can
Oh, fuck. I'm sliding out.
Unlock the car so we can get back in it.
Are they trying to load back in? No.
The people in the truck. There's people in the truck now. There's people in the truck now.
Hey, cops. That's a cop. That's a cop.
Is it? Alright, fuck.
What do you reckon, mate? Cop or not?
I don't know. Yep.
Yep. That's a cop. That's a cop.
Yep. That's a cop.
Oh, are they opening a fire on us? Oh, I distracted them.
No, they distracted someone else.
Yeah, no, I think we just distracted them. Tree again. Let's do it.
Tree?
Yeah, tree.
Hold it.
You got cops back at the van. Cops back at the van. Cops at the van. Cops at the van. Jimmy. Cops at the van. They're trying to flank on us. They're trying to come up in front. Oh, we can probably flank the cops at the tree as well. I'll get us in there. I'll get us in there.
My gun didn't reach that far.
I nearly hit that cop at the back. I'm gonna pass through.
Watch it.
Yep. Distracted the shit out of him doing that. Back to the street. Oh, in the bush here. In the bushes here. I see him.
Pretty sure that was one to the right.
Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah, uphill on the right.
Yeah, there's a cop in front on the left too. Tagged him up, tagging him up. Flanking on our right. Cops coming in front, cops coming in front. Cops coming hard, cops coming hard to get a car.
Jump. Go. Dip. Yep, good shit. It's behind.
Yeah, muck it over. Let's go, baby.
Let's go flank left. We'll go flank left. Let's get radio. We'll go up above him.
Yeah.
Straight. And up here. Yeah. There's left. No, sorry, behind us to the left.
No, we'll go up this one.
This far. I don't better do anything from here.
But that's got to be back on the dirt road we just fucking came from, bro.
No, but it's behind them cops up.
Yeah, gotcha.
Us. I seen the cops to our front and to the left there.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to do this push through here. Hold on.
Yeah, nah. We'll go back on the step.
Reload a car. Guns. I'm reloaded.
What's your armor looking like?
I'm still full. I see them.
They're on cart now. Not cart, fucking car.
Yeah, it's just cops. They're running laps, I think.
Yeah, they are. Like, there's one of the fuck.
Yeah, it's just cops. They got people. Yeah. They got people. They're trying to hold this thing down. I think we can push in. APs. All or nothing it, or...
And a fucking normal pistol, fucking, it's not worth it.
It's not worth it, mate. I'll do another lap through the racetrack again.
Man, fuck, mate. What's your health looking like? Wanna go Hossie?
I'm fine. I'm actually like, perfectly fine.
Fuck, I've got 22 and fucking 25 at the moment.
I've not even been tagged, lad. I'm doing alright.
I've been hit by fucking everything. You name it.
Well, you want to take it to hospital?
Yeah, maybe actually, because like, it'll definitely be going on. People are coming. People will definitely fucking be around again.
Is that hospital over here functional or what?
Where are we?
Harmony.
Oh, fuck, probably not actually.
Yeah, well, fuck. Where's the closest hospital? Because that changes the fucking dealio, doesn't it?
Nah, don't even worry about it then. Nah, don't worry.
Where is it? Is it one in Sandy?
Nah, city.
Really far.
I don't think this one works at Harmony. I can't see anything about it, you know.
Yeah. You just don't want to like make a mistake. There's a jump up here. We're just gonna hit it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want, we can send it.
Oh no.
Oh fuck! Don't even send it like that. Fuck, boy.
It's alright. We're Gucci. Went this one here anyway. Van's still there. Coppers landed. They got a runner.
Wait,
Another gunfight.
Stop it.
They're flanking on left.
Right, I'm hitting him. He's doing nothing. I don't think
He's down. You just downed him, I'm pretty sure. Flanking on our right. We got two. Go.
I actually don't think my shit's hitting though. I didn't do anything.
I'm hitting as well. Get down. Good evening, Aussie Gamer. How you going? What's crack, Arkin?
Do a drive-by. I forgot, bro. What? Why would it do a drive-by? I can shoot.
We repaired this sucker up. Hold on, let me get some cover, get some safety.
Let's go. Behind this farm here.
Yeah, I'm going straight in that this garage here.
Yeah. Oh, calm down, cuzzy.
Right, cover us. How you doing, Aussie Gamer? What's crack like with your Friday? How was work? How was school? That's what you did, G-Star?
I don't think they're gonna come this far.
They might, just be careful. Welcome on in. There's a bloody event going on and we're trying to fucking them up with APs and pistols. Doing alright, but you know, situation.
Fucking homeless bum that plays pokies.
This is intense, Donny. Donny's doing well. Donny's proud of himself right now. I'm not gonna lie. Alright,
Right,
it's right back out top left.
Top left?
Yeah, back.
Drive-by or not?
Yeah, you can drive by them, but first let's go top left out of this concrete place again.
Oh, yeah.
See what's happening down the road.
I'm gonna shoot cops. First cop I see though when we drive.
Yeah, in the middle of the road. Yep, nice shots. I'm gonna go back down there on dirt. There's heaps there.
Oh, did I actually hit him?
I think so. He fucking wiggled, mate.
Right, it was fucking straight. But it fucking...
Learn to shoot straight yet? I've been hitting shots all night, mate, I think. We can see the blood splatter. I'm trying. Work was LMAO, but dropping update on your panel, so wrapping that up. Nice. I'm trying to. Unlikely, he says. What do you see? Quick.
Yeah.
You got one on top. Both cops are still in the tree. They're watching us. They're watching.
Where are those cops?
Yeah, behind us right now. Yeah, they're watching us hard.
I can't see what trees over bro.
No, right behind us now. Helicopter's landed. They're moving the truck. Watch to your right.
Actually, I think I hit that person on top.
Back here. Let's do it. Cops are rapping. Someone pulling up.
Can't see nothing.
Bro, they just drove straight in. They just drove straight into it. Yeah, there's people rolling straight in. Push in, let's go. Oh, shit. He's dropping down the right. Look out. He's got a cover on our flank, I think. That's down. He's down. Any more?
Let's get pushed.
You have eyes?
Yeah, oh, on the other side.
I see him.
He's behind that tree. See him? He's running. He's dead, he's dead.
He's down.
He's up, yeah, he's up, look, he's
Oh, please.
in. Come with me, Mayor. We go hop in this car.
Do I want to steal the truck? I don't know. Go, Donnie, he stole the truck. I got the truck. I got the truck. Wait, look, my car quickly.
Hey.
Yeah, the boys.
Hey.
We got the truck. Where are we taking the truck? Let's go.
You want to my son?
No, where do we go? Where are we going?
We'll take the truck with you guys. Where do we go?
Are we meant to take this fat bitch in the car somewhere?
I guess so. Where do we take her?
Apparently, they
Oh,
want to strip
yeah.
her. They
Where
want to like
are
strip
they?
her.
Do we just take the truck then? Fuck it. Ask your dad. I'll follow.
Follow them. Follow them.
Oh, hey, Dark Chat, Chiliad. Dark Chat just said Chiliad, hey. Cops, cops, cops.
Do we follow them?
Too late, Dark Chat said Chiliad.
They said follow them. They've got the mayor.
Dark Chat said Chiliad. Dark Chat said Chiliad. We can just go to Chiliad, bro.
Alright, we'll follow. We'll go to Chiliad then.
Yeah, actually,
Follow us.
wait, should we probably check the trunk of this thing to make sure there's stuff in it?
Yeah. And let me
Should we pull up somewhere safe?
pull up Brady quickly. I'll quickly check.
Hold on. You can't just pull off a road and be like, yes, it's safe.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, any dirt road, it's kind of safe.
No, wait, we just turned off the main road after the cops watch us drive straight.
Ready?
Yeah, go. Oh, water in the glove. I'll take that water up.
Fucking nuggets, diamond cases. Taking it.
Yeah, sweet. Is there any food back there?
Fucking nah, there's not, but there's all this shit. I'll put it in the glove box.
Oh, fuck yeah! Alright, I got half of
In
it.
the glove box.
Yep, let's take it, let's go. Oi. What we'll do is we'll go back to my car, alright? We'll go back the long way.
Not now though. Not in this. We need to separate this shit.
Grab all that shit out of the glove box, take it into your hands. In your pockets.
I've got everything out of the boot.
Yeah, I've got half of it as well. I'll grab some stuff too. Alright, what we're gonna do, we're gonna lap back to our car. Alright? Actually, let's try. I got vehicle lockpicks on me. Just steal a car. Steal this fucking thing. Let's go. That is the dome from Rust. It is the dome from Rust.
Do we need to fucking bring that car over to the Mount Chiliad for everything to work?
No. It was just an air.
Alright, bet.
Big.
There's still some diamond. There's like one.
No, I grabbed it all. Unless it's at the top.
In the boot.
I grabbed it from the boot too. Go have a look quickly.
Down the bottom. There's still something.
Have a look. Just go have a look then if you think there's something in there.
I couldn't grab it, but
I grabbed it all, I'm pretty sure.
no. 5 emeralds.
Got it.
Holy, how did we do that?
I don't know how we pulled that off, mate. But we pulled something off. Let's go back to my car.
Oh, we've got 8 fucking casino wheel spins.
You got 8 casino wheel spins? Yeah, we're not sharing this. This is ours, fucking Big Jimmy. We're rich, motherfucker. Fuck this bear shit.
5 diamond cases.
Yeah, I
They are.
don't even grab any of those, man. Fucking, maybe we should split this in half and be G's about it. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're splitting this as soon as fucking we get to the same spot.
actually, quickest way down to sea. Actually, I'm not going dirt road. Like, you gotta go on the road.
Yeah. No, you're a fucking fool, mate.
It handles like shit.
Yeah, you're right.
No, I did lock my car
I'll be
before we
back in
fucked off.
1 minute. I need a refreshment.
Alright, alright. Big chat. Big. Donny's rich. He's made it. I don't want to cruise down until this cunt's back. Reload my gun. My fucking pets got everything everywhere though, aren't they? Ooh. Let me know when you're back, Jimmy, please. I'm gonna lose it all on one hand at the gas, 100%. Hopefully that cop didn't take my fucking... take 95% of the profit.
Yep.
Yeah, sweet. Alright, let's go get my car. You ready?
Yep. Quick, Dizzy.
Now we are professionals.
See, here we go again.
Yeah, now let's go park somewhere and actually look at this shit.
W
indeed.
driving by you. W Dizzy's. W listening by me.
Wait, that was fucking brilliant teamwork. Yeah, 100%, mate. We should make our own little fucking crew or something, eh?
Oh, honestly, fuck. Holy.
Honestly, but they're gonna recognise my car. There was one cop left alive back there, unfortunately.
Yeah, look, I really don't think he's gonna be fucking sitting there writing down on his notepad what fucking license plate is.
Yeah, which one's which and where, but it's bloody
Yeah, well, that's it. There's too much going on.
Actually, you know what?
Around enough to annoy him.
I'm gonna. Yeah, we were like, what was it? Floating like a bee and stinging like one too.
What, like a bee, stinging like a bee? What's it?
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Queen.
Float like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. I think it's the one. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
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 Now we should go to Chiliad, but let's quickly divvy this up.
We can't go to the fucking casino now because it's closed.
Right, here you go.
Yeah, we can. It's open. Right. Gotta chuck us on the ground.
Well, hold on. What do you have on you? I've got 10 diamonds, 5 emeralds, 2 casino wheel tokens.
I've got 5 diamond cases, 40 grand dirty, 15 emeralds, 10 diamonds, 20 gold, 20 rubies, and 8 casino wheels.
Alright. Yeah, you have no emeralds, but...
No, I got 15 emeralds.
Alright, you just gotta give us 5 emeralds. I think it was 10 diamonds. And then like 10 grand dirty, and it's like split pretty much.
Look in the glovey?
Yeah, put it in the glovey, and I'll put the ones that I got in there so you can see what I'm doing. Oh no, it's too much.
What? And I give you 5 emeralds?
Yep, 5 emeralds.
5 diamonds?
Yeah, try now.
And then what else was it?
And 10k dirty.
The rubies do you have?
I have no rubies.
I got 20 rubies.
Yeah, so give me 10 rubies too.
How much dirty do you have though?
I got 20k now out of that.
I got 30k on me now, so I'm gonna give you another 5 grand.
Always full splitting enough. You're a G, mate. So I think some of these you can't split enough. You don't have to. Oh, thank you. Right, so I got 15 diamonds.
The rubies are too heavy. Hang on. There we go.
Oh, yep.
Alright, so I've got... Do you have any diamond cases?
Nah, none.
Alright, so I'm gonna give you 3 out of the 5 because you did like the most of the work.
You sure, brother?
I mean, you fucking got the car. You come out of nowhere with the fucking truck. I don't know where the fuck you were, but yeah, you got it.
Yeah, boy. I got 15 diamonds.
Diamond cases. I got 25k dirty.
Yep.
10 emeralds, 5 diamonds, 20 gold ingots. Do you have any?
Got no gold ingots, but I owe you 5 diamonds. Look in the glove box, those are your 5 diamonds.
I'll give you them 10 gold ingots.
Yep.
And then you've got 2 wheel spins, yeah?
Yeah, just give me 1 and I'll be happy because you're a fucking menace. You love them.
I'll give you 2.
Oh, legend. And you should have 6 after that.
I've got 1. No, I've got 1 more. Yeah. So I got 6. You got fucking
4.
4. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Let's. I'm gonna put this in the back and let's go. We'll go up to Chili out or something.
Holy fuck. Oh, I need to put my shit away in the car.
Actually, yeah, fuck that. I'm gonna put mine in the boot of this thing.
Yeah.
I only keep like recycling, wasting that in here. We'll go to one of the garages. I did see the release of Subnautica 2, bro. It looks pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. It's multiplayer now, right? Which was one of the big drawbacks of Subnautica 1.
Surprised.
We kind of dogged everyone. I don't know if that was really our shit to take, like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's in the middle of the shooting and helping out. We're just like, yeah, that's our truck.
I mean, you know, it
You know.
what it is.
It is what it is. You're homeless,
I really
mate.
hope like we didn't steal the loot from the people that
They got the mayor. They were gonna get good shit from the mayor anyway, I think. See, we got greedy, you know what I'm saying? So maybe they'll teach us for getting greedy. We could have got better shit from the mayor.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with.
I'm still holding my gun. Fuck.
There's nothing wrong with being greedy.
No, not at all.
That's just the way life is.
Early game is cooked early. 40 minutes to find one resource. Sounds just like fucking
I'm gonna put this shit away and then use it.
Sounds like just fucking like what was it? Oh, I've lost my fucking train of thought now. Oh, Outbound. That was it. That's what I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I'm on my box field chat. Absolutely rolling in it. All right. Diamond cases. That boom, boom, boom. Cannot fit at all. What do I want to take out of here? Little diamond cases in there. Actually, I'm gonna put my pistol in here, so I don't want to be carrying that around with me at all times. And dirty money. I'll access Jimmy Fletcher if he knows what to do with dirty money. Yeah, is Outbound on Game Pass? Oh, I think it is too, actually, right? Boom. But yeah, Jasmine was looking at it because she wanted to play it, wanted to buy it. It was good for the Switch or something. Oh, I didn't see. Jimmy! Are you alright, mate? Jimmy! Are you down, mate? Are you alright?
I need help.
You are immersed? I'm just ran over for Jimmy.
Help me.
How the fuck do I get you in a boot, mate? Oh no.
Carry.
Yeah, we had this problem last time. I can't carry you, mate.
Oh.
Oh, we could drag. How you doing, Mr. Zane? Welcome into the stream. Drag into boot. Oh yeah, we got you in. Let's go, baby. I just ran him over, to be fair. I think it's kind of my fault he's gone to hospital, but he was on like 20 health, man, and somehow I didn't get tapped. I got hit once, in the first like altercation we had, because someone came up with a fucking MG, dude, nearly clapped me, and then the second one, I have to put my new plate carrier in, I didn't even get tapped, bro. It does all the work. Splits the loot, you run him over, wild. It was so I could steal the rest of the loot too, lad. That was my plan. I should have done that. Is there even a hospital here? Fuck, is there even a hospital here? I'm taking the wrong joint, haven't I? Where's the fucking hospital? Bro, I've not even been to the hospital yet, dude. Because I've not died yet, Chippy, bro. Hey. Fuck. Wait a moment, where's the hospital? Emergency zone. Thought just go to hospital 7 minutes. He's just accident prone. Gotta get that premium hospital insurance he does. I didn't fucking find the hospital, bro. Am I tripping? Was it? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's just down the road. Fucking spoony, eh? Is it just here? Or is that not even right? Blind as a bat. Is it actually just pillbox? By the beach. Oh yeah, blind as a bat. That's right, I have been at the hospital. I've been there once, I'm not used to it not being at pillbox. Leave me alone, chat. Bah! Every server's at pillbox. It is bad for resources, thanks to that. Blind, you guys all just called me blind, lad. I'm stressing. Alright. Overeating, that's what it is. Brain's cooking. Jimmy, mate, we'll get you here alive. I'm sorry it took you a little while. I forgot where the hospital is. Oh, don't fake an injury back there, mate. You barely even got shot and ran over.
I need Goppo.
Baby's got a boo-boo.
Take him sick day.
Give me that. But blocks the entry. Mate. It's just server shit. Servers and servers. Not server shit, but it's... Where the fuck's this bench? Is it here? Here you go, right? There you go. You saved him. Now, I don't know where the fuck he comes out from. And oh, I'm gonna die if I don't get food, chat. Oh no. Yeah. We're going to the fucking shop. Go. Will I survive? Go. And there's also a Septile for you guys in chat. I'm sorry, we're just leaving Jimmy behind. Fuck him. He can die. Oh, why am I framing out now? We're literally hitting 30 FPS. Alt tab back. Crazy. Let me buy food. Put this baguette up here. Where is it? Where did the baguette go? Don't have enough cash on me. Oh, no, I don't. Oh, we're so about to die here, chat. Open ATM. Why did no one tell me I was running out of food? Huh? Fuck. You guys are meant to be like backseat gaming for me, right? Making sure I don't die and shit. Right? Isn't that how it works? Ah, too focused on that fucking event. Should buy more food than that actually, but we're just gonna do this for now. And I'm glittering in the store. Fuck you. That's what I get for nearly killing me. Trying to let me die. That's what you want, isn't it? You just want the hospital roleplay. Alright, let me get back in my car. Reporting me for meta. No meta. Report us. Get us out of here. Doesn't deserve to be cat. Back down.
Back the fuck up, you scrawny cunt with no teeth. I'll fucking knock him out. Come on, cunt.
The fuzzy custom blob, though? I'm keeping it for a later date. You never know when you might need it, mate. You know? That's why I've got it in there. It's good for interactions with the police, too. That backup is well placed. Sorry, mate. Fuck.
Fuck, boy.
So, I accidentally ran you over. And, yeah.
That's about right.
Yep. I had to get food though. It was about to drop.
Won't be the last time.
Yo, I had to get food. It was about to drop. Should we go? I think the mayor was getting up to Chile. I don't want to go up that way and see if we can have a little sussy, eh?
Yeah. Do you have Corby?
Nah, mate. I was just gonna fucking send this up the side of the mountain.
Yeah. Fuck it.
Good call. But yeah, so I've already had.
I'm sure she can fucking handle a bit more.
Yeah, she's been abused. She's a lovely old girl, this thing, but you know, use this in the pursuit, hopefully.
Help us.
Oh, do you have wee-wees? Oh, fuck!
Fuck.
Oh, you're right, mate. We'll keep it warm for you. Yeah, when you come around, mate, I'll give it to you. But,
Wee-wees.
yeah, wee-wee, is that your dad, mate?
No, I don't.
Huh?
Yeah, I never got Dad's number.
You never got your dad's number. Fuck me.
I catch him on the slide.
On the slide?
Sorry, not on the slide. Fuck, that sounds weird.
That sounds very weird. You stalking him or something?
No, I catch him every time I see him.
What are you, like a bratty stepson, you know what I mean?
I got his friends, let me call him.
Yeah, call his friend. So we don't know anything about the truck, alright? You wouldn't anyway, but yeah, don't know nothing about the truck. Alright, we'll try and get the chili out and see what's going up there. Trying to crash some more. Chat is very sus. I need a responsible adult. Chat is always sus. You should have seen stuff going on here a few weeks back. We were playing bloody, was it Jackbox Party Pack? I learned some interesting things about my chat. There are responsible humans in the saloon. Oh, so we died. We died. I really got to look at the road, eh? You're hot. At least the one's keeping me honest with the crash counter. You guys are G's. Being nice to me, eh? Probably all quiet on the western front up there, to be honest. You have a mental note. It was 155, 165. Every crash should actually just be 10 added. That'd be the fair way. No guy, very cheap. Actually did a driving instructor. Maybe not for FiveM though, I don't think that would help much. What I need is a not looking at chat instructor. I reckon if I looked at chat a whole lot less, it would be a lot better, wouldn't it? Try to look at the camera, lock eyes with you so I can make that a meaningful emotional connection, you know? I don't know, fucking fuck yourself. Really should have a camera like here or down here or something. Quite helpful. Cameras on one side, chats on the other, and the bad drivers in the middle. Yeah, they got ambushed up there. Don't have to look. Start using TTS. I can actually set up TTS just to work with chat in general. I shouldn't really be complaining that much. The use streamer bot. You can actually. I can just do a chat overlay like on screen, on my game screen, and all forced on top all the time. But bruh, I like being able to see my game. I probably should just have chat like above the speedo or something. Oh, that's fucked. You look there, Jimmy, mate.
Yeah, I'm still kicking it. Still kicking it.
Still kicking it. Do you think these cunts are going to be up here or what?
Oh, probably not. It's been a hot minute now.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute now.
I reckon we flip around, go to the casino.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of thinking too.
Fuck, when did this shit happen? Oh.
They were down there fighting for a while though, mate.
Yeah, but also, it's been... been 3 minutes since I tried to call old mate.
Nada.
But fuck, probably been fucking 15 minutes easily since...
The actual... Yeah. They actually grabbed the man, and we went the opposite way. We should have went with them.
Yeah.
At the same time, that was a heap of shit.
But also, like, we wouldn't risk that shit. That's a lot for us. Fucking...
Yeah, as soon as you said, like, we were like, oh fuck, should probably check the back here. I'll get us to the top of this mountain.
I'm glad that you said look in the back. Cause like, I thought of it, but didn't really think of it.
I thought it might have been empty, you know?
That's what I thought. That's why I didn't even think about it.
Just a gamble, you know, to get us all there. Oh, we're going down the hill, are we? Oh, no.
But fuck, we probably made like fucking 100 grand tonight off that, I reckon, each. Easy.
Yeah, easy, bro, easy. The only thing is what do you do with the dirty money in there?
Fuck, I don't know what to do with the dirty money. I just know what to do with the diamonds and fucking...
Yeah.
Anything to do with the casino.
Wait, so with the diamonds, you just take it down to the pawn shop, or...?
Yeah.
Pawn shop's the go, eh? Yeah, alright. Isn't there someone else that...
Pawn shop is for the diamonds, and like the other shit you get from mining is at the miner place down below.
Yeah, at the foundry. Isn't there like someone that comes to the foundry now and again that buys your shit?
Like what? Your diamond?
I think so.
Nah, I don't think diamond. I think diamond's at the pawn shop.
What do you reckon, too? Nothing up here?
I mean, fuck, you might as well go up. You're already halfway.
You'd think you'd hear something.
know. Find out.
I ain't driving up the fucking hill though. Is it? Is that a car up there?
No, I think that's the side of that pier.
You see it? I'm thinking there's a car, but $50 says you accidentally accelerate over the edge.
Like
I'll take that bet.
Right.
It's the right. I think it's a rock, but you're on the money.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's a fucking. What's the name thing, Dominic?
Cable car, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I've got. I'm framing out as I try and rev up my guts out of the car here. See anything? There's a car here.
Hello, are we late to the party?
Anyone in the car? No.
Let's go explore. In the car.
Very precarious spot to leave my car, but anyway. No one in the car.
Hello?
Hello? Hello? Hello? See nothing up here. Well, you know what, Jimmy, mate? We fucking stole that fucking mare bitch's money, the diamonds, the emeralds. Let's go gamble our life away at the casino. Let's go, baby.
Alright, oh, you're driving.
I'm driving. Let's go, baby.
Oh, fuck me.
What, do you want to drive?
No, it probably won't work.
Yeah, I reckon Jimmy be worse than me. Right. Tater on the edge here too. Ah, yeah, fuck the public schools, that's alright. Is he getting on a dirt bike? Dirt bike would be fat. Dirt bike would be fat. What do you want to do, dirt bikes?
Big. Yeah, you got a spare lockpick, man. I feel like we deserve this. This is our.
Alright, yeah, I
This
only
is
got...
what we get for coming to Mount Juliet.
Yeah, you take this one.
How hard is it to do
Yep.
it? I feel like it's gonna be hard.
And put you back in a hospital. Yeah, most likely. Leave my car here for a safe time. Look at the shit I got on me. It's all the daily stuff I'm just saving up, basically. Well, he's moved us into a rock. Chippy. I'll get on there. Hey, just lockpick this motherfucker.
Why'd you lockpick it trying to get on it?
It was locked. Yeah, it was locked, lad. Alright, so we're going to the fucking casino.
Yeah.
Oh, is that blood, man? What the fuck?
Oh, fuck.
You see that on the ground?
I do, what is it?
I think we just found where the bear died, lad.
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
I don't know.
hold on a minute here. Let's have a look at this. Is there anything gone birdie? Yeah, well, that's people growing weed. That's that Joey fella. What the fuck? Enrico. Alright, no, I don't say anything. The casino chat. Hey. I'm gonna put my helmet on, fuck that. Which way are we going? Down the left side of the mountain. Just get a little pole going. Will Don die on the way down the mountain? Will Don die? Jimmy, mate, fuck, you take a lot of time on your head, mate. Fuck me, you think a lot for someone with very little brain. Check my car's locked while we're waiting for him, I suppose. Oh, we're so gonna die. That already feels sketch as. We'll go first person too. Look. Alright, let's go.
Are we sending it down the
Go, let.
Boy Mountain?
Which side? Which side?
The roof?
Off the. Oh, you do the jump. You want to do the. Oh, the roof. Oh.
Oi, 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 oi! Still.
Well, that's what happened. Well, first person sucks on a motorbike. Oh my god.
Why is it so hard?
Is he doing? I think he's trying to do the wrong one. So I tried to go to the other side. Well, I just missed it too. Have you got it across yet? Watch him get across and not me. He's trying to do that one. Pretty sure it's this side you can do it. No, I've just missed it again anyway. My car. Alright, so I'll try and follow Jimmy across here. I swear this is the wrong side. Let's go. Jimmy, mate, what are we doing? Oh, Jimmy, mate, this is fucked. What do you want to do here? Jimmy, mate, this does not seem like a good idea.
Oh man. Well, actually, what are the chances of landing one of them fucking 5+ things?
Oh, the cable cars. Yeah, do it. Start the poll, guaranteed win. Where is it? Is it this side? Guaranteed win on poll. Mate, how long does this cable car take? What the fuck?
Fuck, the 110.
Oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. What side is it on? Oh, this side it is. I'm going, Jimmy! Oh, I missed it! Fuck! Oh, no! Oh, dude, that's fucked. Oh, I'll take that. That's a dub. I'm a survivor, Jimmy. That's for sure. Holy shit. Let's keep going. 360 in. Oh, yeah, baby! Oh! 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 Oh, the block's breaking down. We're not gonna make it down the hill. Oh! Yeah, we survived. Oh! I spoke too soon. That's that streamer luck there, chat. Professional. No, I think it was the way I hit the tree, to be honest with you. I think it was the way I hit the tree. Oh, bloody lumber. Now, I have a feeling Jimmy's dead, so give him a ring, but you might have survived. Did you survive, Jimmy?
My bike fucked. I'm in front of you.
Oh,
my bike
Jimmy. How did you survive? What the fuck?
I don't know, man. My bike
Oh,
Right, let's go to the casino. Let's go gamble.
yeah, let's gamble. I'm ready. Yeah, have this back.
What's this back? Oh, I love the lockpick. Jeez, mate.
You're all good. You got one more, 2 more left, I reckon.
Yeah, they get a bit old as the days go on too, so.
Oh, true. Oh, but W, no, it's not though. We're up. No matter what.
We're up hard as
Yeah,
fuck,
we
mate.
spent some money on a gun. Yeah, we spent money on armor, ammo. Fuck.
But yeah, what the fuck do you do with the dirty, mate?
Yes. Did we get up? Yes. Oh, this is like a max win on the pokies at this point.
Oh. My only question is what do you do with the dirty, mate? Will you go spend it somewhere?
Fuck if I know. I don't care about the dirty. I'm up still.
Yeah. There's like 40k dirty, doesn't
I
you
don't
know?
know.
You can claim
Find someone.
with the cash.
A moolah. I mean, fuck, we've got, yeah, a fair bit of dirty. Like, that's like more than whatever they had.
Go past the dome.
Had any dirty, so,
There's the dome. I've only gone past it once now.
fuck it. I'm gonna wait until you get the car drive. I'm sorry.
Oh, what is that?
I need to go on my head.
Oh, stretch. I had a stretch. One arm,
I'm back.
2 arm stretch.
Sorry.
Yeah, go for a little fucking head nut, mate. We'll be a minute soon. Hit the stretch.
Head for a minute as well, eh?
Yeah, no, you can do what you need to do, mate.
Sweet, okay.
Oh, should we get us kill Jimmy now? Steal his shit? While he's fucking not there, while he's not paying attention? Do him dirty. Like, that was a cool event though, eh, chat? That wasn't too bad. There was a lot of cops there. I was a little bit fucking worried the cops would be overpowered. And to be honest, they were a little bit. But strategy is what won us the day there. Like us pulling in and out, doing multiple hips. Yeah, claiming bounty, just drop off at the cop shop. But yeah, coming in and out all those times, very helpful. And obviously those other people, I think people were revived or went to the hospital and came back. Could be wrong on that, but. Probably both have bounties, bro, to be honest with you. That's my car at saying, I don't know if that cop got my number plate. If he did, I'm all screwed, but hopefully not. We got a bunch of wheel spins. Let's see if we get any fucking, get any, what's it called? Cars or something. And we gotta try and find contacts to sell this shit to. Oh, it might do. They do usually do investigations. It depends on how many people are still alive and stuff like that. If anyone actually gave enough of a fuck to get the number plate. No, I want to park this here so no cunt can steal it. With my car. Or motorbike, rather. I'll lock that up. Alrighty, chat. I need to quickly bust to the loo and get a drink of water. So I'm going to do a quick 100k raffle for you guys in chat. So make sure you guys all use exclamation mark join. Kick back, relax. And I'll be back with you guys in a memento because, yeah, I need some water and go to the toilet. I haven't got up out of this chair in like 2 hours. So there's a 100k. Be right back soon. Screen and the music will be nice and loud for you. So be back with you guys in a moment. Stay right there. look at that. Perfect timing as the raffle ended. Viewbot got himself 100k chips, and Thomas got himself 100k chips as well, I think. 50k split.
Ready.
Oh, an Aussie split it too. Yeah, no worries, we're coming in with you.
Oh, and I'm almost fucking feeling really not good.
Yeah, same. I was quite hungry.
Nah, not healthy. Might drop soon.
Oh shit, you can take the bike if you need to.
Yeah. Oh, can you be keys? Or...
Oh.
Yep.
Is
No,
a
that should be
lockpick.
good. As long as I don't fall. As long as I don't fall. That should be good.
I'll give you a lockpick anyway.
Actually, I might as well. I'll prepare for a little bit.
Just in case, just in case. Right, let's go in here. Rip bike. Bike just disappeared on us. I was like, oh, let's go use this. Nah. No, do you have enough money on us to actually go into the casino? Yeah. I didn't even check that. 400 bucks. The fucking dailies 600. We got these fucking 4 casino spins. Do you wait for Big Jimmy? He'll probably be a hot minute, so I reckon we just hit this wheel. Boom.
There it goes. The lucky
There's one.
spinning and another fabulous prize could be won.
All drinks. That'd be pretty funny. 7.5k chips. Good gamble. Yeah, true at Mount Chiliad. There you go. So we stole the truck, bro. Me and Jimmy got the truck, and we fucked off with the truck and all the goods inside of it, eh? Come back in 34 seconds. But yeah, so we were there like picking shots coming in and out. And then I got the truck, and then Jimmy's like, what the fuck, you got the truck? And I was like, yeah, get in, let's go. Go. And there was like diamonds and emeralds and diamond cases, bro. We were rolling in it. Yeah, you got a bunch of fucking spins. We probably should have split it with everyone. I hope you guys got shit for having the mare. I was saying that to Jimmy, like we maybe should have split it with everyone up at the top of the mountain, but yeah. My shit now. Right, start spinning the wheel. We do a low power, another high power, just all high powers. Oh, hostile takeover. I think Zeke and them had it. I'm gonna do another high power.
And another contender is trying their luck on the lucky wheel.
Not it. Is that nothing? No, it's 4k. I'll take that. We up tonight. Oh no, old Rico got murdered. Damn, when Joe Ramone smoke. I don't know if I got any kills tonight, but I definitely tagged a bunch of people. I did very well in that regard. I think I'm gonna do pretty well in the regard of fucking chips as well. Yeah, Jimmy, mate, what's up?
Hey, Marcus, mate, don't be dare using them wheel spins without me.
I've already used 2, I'm sorry. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'll let you catch up too. I'm sorry.
You're a team.
I'm sorry, I just thought it. You know what, fuck you, I did all the work. I deserve to have these wheel spins in peace. I've been carrying your fucking stupid ass around. I'm fucking sick of it, alright?
Sorry, man. It's not my fault that the fucking truck magically appeared in your hands and you're fucking driving it right now.
You know, that's called, it's called skill. Alright, when you got that off.
That's not skill. You fucking risk everything. I was sitting there fucking getting shot at by police, and here you are fucking getting the truck.
Yeah, mate, I got the smoke, I got the fucking goods. We came out there rich men, so you want to get here, you want to give me another fucking ticket so I have a same amount as you do.
Alright, I'll be there.
Oh,
Let me check in.
I didn't think that'd work. Alright. How far away are you, mate? I'm towing for more spins.
I'm fucking 5 minutes. I'm
4 minutes.
I'm about checking now. I'll be there soon. I'll be there.
Yeah. Fucking chippy. Will they actually be here? Someone's got their push bike here. I'm gonna sit at the door and just point and wait. I knew you want us to wait. I didn't want to fucking use it. I blame you guys in chat. You guys are fucking twisting my rubber elbow. And I'm like, you need to get these spins going. You just see what the wins are. Can't tell what was the voices in my head, can I? No, don't blame us. I'm not a fiend. You're a fiend. I'm so much of a fiend, actually. I've even traded crypto in the crypto app. Hey, get out of that one, the marketplace. I'm up. I'm down. Let's see if we can make a good trade on crypto. Bro. I own that too, lad. That's fucked. Nah, see, everything's up hard. Bitcoin's at 80k. I think the Aussie dollar is doing... this is bad, I know this. So if it's at 80,000, the Aussie dollar is 1.38 for $1 American dollar. So, boom. 0.38. So it'd be like 110 or something. Yeah, look at that, 110. So it was like 115 earlier. You got your 1-to-1 roulette games? I haven't seen any of that happening. But see, crypto, Bitcoin was at 115, so I traded it up. Made a bit of money when I got hit 115 IRL. I'm definitely not watching it IRL. I'm a menace. Yeah, the 18th. I did see that. You take two. Oh, my fucking chin just... My chin hairs just got caught in the mic. That hurt. Oh. Fuck. But yeah, no, I did say that. We got leaked on the... We got leaked on the 18th, right? It'll be American 18th, which is our 19th of May. The pre-orders, Dark Viper was all over it. Where the fuck's this Jimmy guy, bud? I'm waiting for these spins. I'm pretty excited for that. I'm excited for Forza Horizon 6. I got that fucking preloaded on the old fucking computer. But I got the POV version, so I'm not playing it till Tuesday. I'm sorry, chat. I'm not spending 180 bucks on Forza 6 if the pre-orders for GTA fucking 6 come out. Because I'm heading to my boy Kai at EB Games. I'm going, Kai, my brother, is who I brought these headphones off of, and we had a mad chat for like an hour, 45 minutes at EB. And he ended up being a mad cunt. I don't want to say, I shouldn't say his name too much. Dox him. But yeah, I'm going there and get a physical, I can't even fucking use it, but I don't have a physical disc drive. And that's assuming that the PC release is going to be on Monday. More special editions there are. Yeah, does everyone actually know that? Like, do we know if it's releasing on PC day one? Because normally it doesn't release on PC day one. So, like... No, PC released for 2050. Fuck, that'll be depressing. All, like, super excited. Like, I'm pre-ordering it! GTA 6. Forza, of course, has PC release day one. People were playing it today. I was avoiding streams. I was avoiding Shanks in the fucking Discord call. I was avoiding it all. Where the fuck is this cunt? I'm not waiting any longer for him. Nah. That's it. I'm gonna shoot him when he walks in. So is it? It's not to it being delayed for PC release. Because we'll just have to wait and see. Like if it's Monday, we'll find out on Monday. I really do hope it does release. Like actually, let's wait a minute. Let's have a look. Is it the Googles? Open a tab. Close this up. Maybe these will open. It's on the big screen. Hold on. GTA 6 pre-order release. Oh, is this there? Yeah, there you fucking are. Yeah, thank you. It's a trippin'. 19 months, bro.
The spinnies.
You gave me another one. Oh, you're a mad cunt. You didn't have to do that. Let's go over here.
I got 5. Me first.
Well, I've got an Xbox Series X, so I can definitely get it on that and play it on that. Maybe that's the strat. Straight off my Xbox. So a year or something later, so they get the double dip, you know? Yeah. So it'd just be console. But you got nothing, straight up. Yeah, that's what you get for making me wait, you stupid cunt. You got nothing, fuck you.
You can go next, alright? Yeah.
I'm so angry.
You can lift that charm.
Yeah. But that's all. I'll just pre-order it on the Xbox. Then I can use disc for that chat. I can get the physical copy.
The lucky wheel is spinning and another fabulous...
Yeah, so I got like 4k cash and I got 7.5k chips. I think I just got drinks.
You got 12.5.
Nah, 3.
Right.
Well, there you go. I'll put it on 100k raffle for you guys to chat too while we're gambling in this, so you guys can gamble as well. I'll get you away.
Yeah, man.
Probably for console, so the game actually looks good. Because on PC, you'll have cunts on a 20-year-old GPU complain the game doesn't run. Yeah, that's 100%. The consoles go first because they can make a standard copy, and then they go make the PC one because it's so varied and you have to optimize it for so many different consoles or PCs and that.
Steady wins the race.
Or he's in the blackjack. Make sure you guys use exclamation mark join to get into that raffle there too.
Oh no. Why you gotta be drinks? No, it's not drinks. It's 10 grand.
Yeah, get to 10. Get to 10. Go on, good. Oh, you good thing.
Oh. It's so good though. Big. We up.
Big. You made your money back you gave me tonight.
Yeah. I gave you more.
Yeah, you only gave me 10. I thought. As in for the gun at the start. I am a bad gambler. It was a terrible hand at 14, not gonna lie. That dealer, he's scummy. It's Raw's a dealer too. Oh, 5k! Yeah! Oh, we're doing it right.
Big. We're up.
I'm a bad gambler, but I was playing blackjack here last night, and I sat here for fucking ages just playing blackjack. And I didn't get up, I'll tell you that much. I was definitely not up. I walked out with 0 chips, or like 50 chips or something. And I sat here for like 40 minutes. And it was like I'd get up a little bit, and then I'd be like, get confident and start gambling all my money, and then, nah. Ooh! What is it? Oh!
What's this? What is it? Give me.
Mystery!
Oh, diamond case.
Diamond case, you got another one! Now you got 3, that's what you give a Peter good cunt.
Exactly.
Oh, that's nice.
Congratulations to the winner of a mystery prize at the lucky
Fucking
wheel.
oath. I think this is my last spin.
I've still got fucking 2 more.
Full strength, let's go.
Contender is trying their luck.
Oh, Viewbot just got in too. Good timer, mate. No, I reckon this is drinks. Or is it 5k again?
No, it's 5.
Oh yeah, baby. Gonna play blackjack after this.
I will. After 3 minutes, because I've...
Oh my god, mate.
Stop it.
Right, but, you know...
Get some
I'm
help.
not stopping it. I'm not stopping. Can't stop, won't stop. No, I think I can still go buy my single daily too. I think I can go buy one. I'll be back.
Player is trying the lucky
Oh, I'll watch the gamble first.
or remain a disappointment in life.
Oh, 20k. It's 20k, Jimmy. Jimmy.
Oh, it's not...
No, it's 15. That's still good.
Oh my god.
33k for Mr. Raw. Chappie got 33.
Yes.
And Thomas got another 33.
It's all yours.
All right, no, I can go. I have to go buy one.
Wow, we have a big winner at the lucky
Fuck yeah, Jimmy and Viewbot's got himself. So everyone's winning. Everyone's happy. Get into the roulette. Get into the blackjack. Jesus, Chappie. Instant Illuminati sheet.
The lucky wheel is spinning and another fabulous
Can I not get another VIP membership? Oh, it's for another hour. Damn.
Another day in Los Santos.
Damn.
Here you go.
Trading 50 and then we're trading a K. So only, oh, actually I'll trade in the 1500.
There.
Oh, I'm a spinner. Can't math. Can't quick math, so
contender is trying their luck.
I only gamble with 5k so I don't lose at all. How much are we left with? What we got now? We got 20k in cash, 5k in chips for 25k all up. Big. And I can come back an hour later. Double big. Where's Jimmy? Is he still over there? Is that Jimmy? Yeah. Oh, you gave 800k to Chappie. How nice. How'd you go?
I lost nothing. I mean, I won nothing on the last one.
Yeah, I can't buy another fucking ticket to have a go for another hour or so. So fucking, let's go play some blackjack for a bit, eh?
One of your diamond cases? You got none on you.
What, you can open them?
think so.
Well, open it. Tell me what's in it.
I'll give.
All red?
Give you one.
You're doing the wonder ones.
Oh fuck.
Oh. What's it do?
Oh.
What's it do?
You have a look for yourself.
Look for myself. You're not gonna give me one, are you?
Give me the shit though.
Oh yeah, all right, I will. Yeah. I'll show you the betting tricks, mate. All right. Oh yeah, silver ingot nugget. Oh my god.
Got some diamond seeds for a player.
I got a dollar weapon kit. I got a pearl weapon kit.
Bonus XP.
I got emeralds. I got a large silver nugget.
A lot of money.
Right, let me give you the stuff back, mate. Here you go.
Did you get seeds or no?
Nah, give me everything I got. Should just steal them off of me. That's cool. We're gonna go back and open those cases, chat. Holy shit.
Oh my. Oh, what the? Oh.
Yeah, that's everything I got there. Yeah.
Look at this. This is what I got. I'll give you one of these. It looks weird, but...
Us two just like being like, what's this? What's that? Oh, what the fuck? Diamond seeds.
Yeah. Can you grow some diamonds?
Worth a lot of money and gives bonus XP. I think you use it, bro.
You want to test it and use one? You know. Science purposes.
Oh, bro, chap. I don't know if you want to waste it like that, bro.
I've got 4.
Alright. Right, do you want this back or?
No, use it.
Stand, chap. Don't do it, bro. Wait, have a look. I say with blackjack you can. With all that, sorry. Did you win? I'm not looking. Oh, you won. Rule that.
Anything happen or?
No, I didn't use mine. Did you use yours?
No. I was saying, like, do you want to use it?
No, I don't know. But I was thinking maybe I'll hold on to it.
No, I'll use one then. Fuck it.
Yeah, I think it is capped at 100k actually.
You are not experienced enough to do this.
Okay. Well, let's go do blackjack then. Might be capped. Blackjack I didn't make, so I don't actually know the internet. Oh, yeah, right. You're right. He'll find our blackjack table, won't he? You reckon? Surely, right? Let's not sit down just yet. So I want to show you how this roulette goes. So we can do our bets quickly. Let me check how many chips I have. 850. Fuck all. That's alright. 10%. So you get like 10% black. And then do like 10%. What was it? 3, 2, 1.
Oh, Marcus, man.
Hello. Yeah, hello.
That's Tommy, mate.
Tommy?
Tommy, Marcus, Tommy.
Nice to meet you, Tommy. How's it going, brother?
This is the man that gave me my first VIP here. He pretty much funded my casino addiction.
Oh, I see.
No, he's living here.
Oh, I just realised the Thomas is now. Oh my god.
It's a lifestyle at this point.
Yeah, mate. Oh, big wins is life, right? Hey.
Oh, definitely.
Well, speaking of, let's get into some hands, eh?
I'm gonna flip my head for 2 minutes, but Tommy's gonna fucking play some with you.
No worries. I've got 5k chips to fuck around with.
5.
Nice.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm only gonna use 5k. I don't want to go broke, lad.
Oh, fucking here you go, mate.
We gave you another 5. Oh, fucking Jimmy, mate. You're treating me.
I'm a DJ. I love this shit. I live and breathe for the poker.
We're just gonna sit here at the pokies the rest of the night.
I'll be back.
And 17.
17 for him, 14 for me. So they're all playing blackjack. But you see, I did multiple bets there, chappy.
17.
Another?
You can't really hit on 17, eh? It's fucked. Well, you got an ace butt, so we'll slip down.
Card.
He's playing it safe.
Yeah, we're here for the big wins, mate.
Yeah, I lost like 3k on this.
Ah, fuck. 24, that's terrible.
There's 17.
No, he didn't bust out. So we've got 10k chips. We've got to try and survive till Jimmy comes back. I don't want to go too hard, actually. Maybe I should lower my amounts. 250, but we can have the win back on 250. Double ups. Splits, we should be good.
Yeah, you better give me blackjack.
Lucky 7.
10, 7. Lurk, won't leak any false details. Enjoy winning. Thank you. Fuck. 17, that's terrible. I have to play this safe too. Yeah, I think I'll have to play it safe, but he's got an ace.
Yeah, he luckily didn't have. Oof.
Oof.
Another?
Yeah, I'm hitting the stand. Bust out, come on. 18. Fuck. Or 19. Even worse. Hey, where's Jimmy? Where's Jimmy? What bad luck. God, we're doing terrible with these hands. I'm terrible at blackjack. Don't take any advice of me.
10.
10.
Give me an ace.
11. Give me a 10.
Showing 16. And 14.
14.
That's rough.
Card.
Could double down on the hit.
Showing 19.
Could double down on the hit. That's spicy.
Like another card? And 21.
Should have doubled down on the hit. And I think I was going to double down on that hit. I should have done that.
19.
They pushed me again.
Fuck. I should have doubled down, chat. See?
At least they won though. One big.
Yeah, not bad. Good bit of money back.
It's time for bets, please.
Now we want to try and burn through this cash, do some big wins. We'll get warmed up, and then we'll start putting G's on the table when Chippy comes back. Oh, that's a stand if I've ever seen one.
Another?
Nah, doubling that.
19.
Ooh, that's good numbers.
Card. 16.
Bust, bust, bust. Yeah, baby.
Let's go.
Alright, what else are we going to get here? Come on. Should I put a G down, chat? I was going to wait for Chippy, but... Takes his time, this man. It's already been 3 minutes. I'll put it at 5. We just won 5. Is that max bet anyway?
10. And 6. That's
Another 6. Let me split.
showing 16.
Ah. That's a rough hand.
Would you like another card?
That's a rough hand. 2.
There's 20. And 17. Another card.
We went 5 and down. Oh, fuck. You gotta get in the hands if you want to win, I suppose.
That's 20.
Oh, fucking oath.
Good cards.
Showing 9.
I was worried about that. That was actually pretty smart betting by me, I'm not gonna lie.
Bruh.
Oh, you got 21. There's no way. I thought I was playing that smart there, but we just got fucked.
Yeah, I think got like all the cards for him.
Let's get those bets in. Got a 7.
7.
There's a 2.
Oh, terrible hand. Split the 2s.
Sitting at 18. 10.
18, 10, 10.
I think I'm gonna stand on this one. 18.
I'm gonna hit, but I'm not gonna double down.
15.
Oh, fuck, that's terrible. 6 and below, eh?
Got 18.
Yeah, I'll have to take that.
13.
13. Bust out.
And bust goes the dealer.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'll take that G back.
Indeed. Did we win our money back?
Is it? You have to get the VIP to get the high rollers, right?
Yeah.
Time
We need
for
the
bets,
VIP, yeah.
please. Showing 6.
Well, if you get much above 10, you probably have to bust up to the high rollers. Go on, can I split this? It's 10.
There's 20.
Yeah, it's a split. It's a split or play. He's got a jack there. There's plenty of cards that equal 10 though. And there's no aces out.
16.
Plenty of cards that equal 10 and there's no aces out.
That's over 21.
Fuck.
Take that king back,
Like another
please.
card?
Yeah, I wanted that king. I'm gonna split it though. I'm doing it.
That's 20.
Ooh.
Sitting at 18.
Oh.
Oh, that's a double stand.
Can't be
Jesus.
good.
Lucky 13. The dealer has bust.
Oh, yeah, baby. How much above 10k do we go up to the high rolls? We get to 15. Have to just leave Jimmy. Move on. Bro, you can just sit here making money like this all night. Why don't I just do this? Why am I cruising around doing shit? Fuck roleplay. This is gamble.
Bets, please. And 6.
That's bad.
Showing 11. Sitting at 15. 15.
Oh.
Terrible cards for all of us. King, 3-6. These are horrible cards.
Not taking a chance.
And busted.
Yeah.
Would you like another card?
Yeah, I'm taking a hit too, taking the risk.
Sitting at 15.
Oh, because I have a ace up. We'd be the fuck out for a second there. Oh, yeah, fuck it.
Got 18.
Well, the odds of it being low again, right?
15. And bust goes the dealer.
Like, what's this Jimmy guy doing? We're about to get enough money to go to the high roller table, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, this is chilling. I'll quickly do a raffle for you guys in chat.
Let's get those bets in.
So you guys can get some Pokemans if you want them as well. Make sure you guys use exclamation mark join to get in there. Little 50k.
And 2.
No, I'm just flooding the economy now.
Lucky 7.
Have I got any Poke eggs? Ten, 7.
Another?
I'm gonna double down. Give it a quick send.
There's 17.
Ooh.
Card. And 17. There's 20.
Oh, bugger.
He's fleecing us.
Yeah, we're getting fleeced. I got confident there. Jimmy, mate, fuck, are you deaf and blind or something? You're making us fucking run dry.
It's time for bets, please. Got a 7. And 8. There's 17. 10.
10.
Would you like another card?
Double down 10 again. 17, 9. Yeah, leave at the edge of my seat.
And 21.
Oh.
Right.
Showing 16. Lucky 21.
That's a pot split. That's bullshit.
There. I might have to go to the bank soon to get some more money.
Oh no.
Bets, please.
I can't go through my money fast enough at this table.
11.
Yeah, I lost like all of the roulette earlier, so.
And blackjack.
Oh, blackjack, nice.
17.
So game over? Oh, hit a hydrate. How you doing, Jester? I hit a hydrate. Just ran out of water though. Actually, I was meant to VIP you. Give me 1 second, Mr. Jester. There's your name. Oh. There's your VIP. How you doing on this fine Friday? How was work? I was going to get home. That's what we did. Mr. Jester, Mr. Perp. Welcome on in. We're just sitting here. We had an event. We won a good bit of money. We're just sitting here gambling away. Well, I'm going to go to the high roller table, I think, in a second. Try and get another win, another dub. Maybe I'll cash out. Jimmy's taking too long.
3. 15.
It's actually been 10 minutes since he said he'd be back. They didn't let you join. Oh, you must have just missed it, I think. Oh, I could split with the 6 hold on there. Let me do this quick math here in my head.
Dealer wins.
Oh, that bullshit. Dealer got blackjack the hand out for a blackjack. That's 2 blackjacks in a row. It's bloody bullshit, that is.
Yeah.
It's time for bet.
Well, I'll have to run another one because no one won that one. Hey.
Lucky 7. 5.
Right, I'm trying to count cards. And Grand Auto Blackjack. Doesn't really work, I don't think. But yeah, I hope you had a good day, brother. We just had a big event tonight. We're shooting out, shooting the police. I came away with a couple of diamonds, diamond cases. Like 20 grand of dirty. Bunch of wheel spins.
Sitting at 15.
It worked tonight. I'm hitting again on 15.
Busted out.
Yeah, I knew that was risky. Well, hope you have a good night at work, and yeah, you're an absolute legend for coming in.
Sitting at 8.
Thank you so much. I got that VIP sorted, but I was trying to find your name yesterday. Or earlier today, sorry. You broke yet? Tell me what.
Not yet.
Not yet, you still doing alright.
Yeah. Still some left in it.
Bets, please.
You gotta slap this Jimmy guy upside there or something.
And 9. 10. 13.
But yeah, it's been a busy night, and now it's just for the relaxing end of the night, I suppose. Another 15, I'm gonna hit again. I'm just trying to pump through this money now.
14.
And I'll do another raffle for you guys that missed out. And that last one. I'll leave them alone for a bit.
What?
Would you like another card?
Like, what cards did you get? You got a few there. I need lows.
And 17.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stand at 17. That's good enough. Yeah, now you're in it, mate.
Yeah.
Because it does close the entries at some point just before it closes. Or before it pulls the winner. That is such bullshit. Should have hit. Should have hit. Could have pulled out that ace, stolen it from him. See, it's always that, right? You watch the cards come out and you're like, fuck.
4. 10.
10. We're doing well, but now we're going down.
Got a 7. There's 20.
Oh, split. Oh, there's no 10s on the table. We're going to get lucky. I think we will.
There's 17.
That's a 10 there.
Card.
Max bet BDE time. Well, we've max betting the whole time. I want to go to the VIP table though to win big blackjack. Oh, fucking oath.
14.
Nice.
Oh, do I take a hit on my 14 for sure?
That's 20.
Oh, fucking yeah. I'll take that end.
Would you like another card? And 17.
17. There we go. Back up. Like, I might go to the high rollers. At least you got a bit of money back too.
For bets, please.
Yeah, I did.
10.
Oh, give me an ace now.
Oh, that's all the 10s, eh?
Got 18. Showing 12.
18's a good number. 18's very good. I keep scratching my head. I gotta stop doing that. It's like a nervous tick. I'm not even fucking nervous. Doubling down on 12. Come on.
16.
Fuck. No, I'm not beating Tommy.
15. The dealer has bust.
Let's go. So,
Oh, that's alright. I'll take the money back. Yeah, not bad, Tommy. I'm back over 10.
money back now.
I might go to the high rollers, but so I can lose all my money.
Feels like you beat the house.
Yeah,
huh?
probably bad.
Take care.
It's upstairs, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go. Nice 50k chips for you as well. Ooh, ad break going on. We go up here, we go have a fucking look at the high roller table. Oh, and a magma. Nice. You guys use exclamation mark catch to get in there. Oh yeah, straight off the bat. This is the high roller table. We can play roulette in here too. Blackjack. I don't want to do blackjack or play actual poker in here. Just more table games. Is this the high roller here? High stakes, so. Fucking Jimmy taking his time down there. Oh, he's coming. There's Tommy. Alright.
Time to send in your bets.
You playing roulette, are you?
Yeah, probably got lucky to get our money back.
Oh, well, what you play a game for a second?
Yeah.
You still trying for magma? Did I get to see the wheel spinning? I thought you did. Nice catch, bro. You got a magma. Hey, baby. Yeah, we do get to see it spin. What is he bet on? 2 to 3.
Okay, bets are closed. Let's begin.
Nice, second 12 and third 12. Oh, he's on high bets on it?
Please, high number.
It's got to be higher than 12.
On 5.
No! Unlucky us.
Maybe a short break will change your luck.
Yeah, maybe. I'm hitting high stakes here.
Welcome, sir. Your bets, please.
Now, how's the max bet? 3k! Yeah, I'm doing max bet. Oh, no, I don't know if I want to do that off the bat, actually. Actually, that's no balls. No balls. Oh!
Let's go.
That's 19.
Oh! On the no balls. I'm definitely standing.
Good cards, good card.
Stand. Just give me the win.
A 15. 17.
Yes. Yeah, we're up 6k chips on the first head.
That's so good.
Hey, baby. Right, we're just gonna all in until we bust out, or we'll fucking get 20k, I think.
5. 7.
Oh, that's terrible.
Do you want another card?
Hit and then double down.
That's a 14.
Yep. Man of my word. Wait, let me double down. I'm hitting Q. Let me double down, fuck ya.
Hey, you got fucking 3 cards there. Can't.
Over.
Fuck. Can't you double down on more than 2? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Was it an option then?
9. 15. The dealer's bust.
I was just saying to Tommy, I'm going to do 3k hands until I get 20k or bust out.
3k Fucking bets to the max for me.
Yeah, it's max for me too.
Minimum, sorry.
Oh, gotcha.
Fuck, my bad, man.
Time to send it.
Yeah, mate, you're in your head for a while there.
Streaming.
Big dreams.
I was
Dream.
dreaming about blackjack right here.
I see 16. A 15?
Oh, he's terrible.
I was dreaming about a lot.
Another
Nothing.
Do I hit on 16? Fuck, I need 5 of them lower. No, I don't trust that. I'm staying.
Saved. I got 5.
Would you like another card?
Oh, I got 7. Blind, my bad.
I don't see any 5s on the table either.
15.
Oh, it would have been a 10. Thank God I didn't touch that.
I'm risking it.
20.
That's good, mate.
Some solid football.
Bust her out.
15. A 21.
Oh, there's no fucking way.
Look, that's all good.
It's alright. We can make a comeback here.
No matter what, it's all good. This is just fun.
Oh, yeah, baby. Just trying to bust out now, really, aren't we?
Listen up, dealer. You better let them win, you know? Don't scam us money.
Check out fucking sleeves.
A 10.
5, 10.
Put her in a headlock if she fucking doesn't listen.
And that's 20.
Yeah, I got those strong hands.
Oh, there's so many 10s on the fucking board, eh?
I was gonna split.
I'm splitting too.
I'm not risking it.
I'm splitting, fuck it.
An 11.
11.
15.
That's a hit and a hit, really, isn't it?
Fuck, you can double down at 11, I'm pretty sure.
I might do it as well. It's not letting me get to it, though.
What is your move?
At least you will.
Too high.
Oh, shit. Oh, well, double down this one.
Another card?
No, I think it's kind of wigging out.
19. Would you like another card?
We've lost all our money that quickly.
I'm splitting as well.
That's 17. 20.
Yeah, nice.
I'll stand on them both.
Do you want another card? We have 13.
13.
14. A 15. 18.
Fuck off.
Because of the cards. It's...
Well,
I won.
We won still, though.
Wait. What?
What? I don't know, wait.
What happened?
Because we split, it's like 4 people were playing at the table instead of just 2. And then we lost on one of our hands and one on the other one.
But
So you just get your money back, basically.
I got 6 grand back.
Yeah, so did I. I don't know. I don't know if that math worked. But it works for me. Put your numbers down.
A 10.
I'm losing all this money.
2.
I'm a DJ.
And that's 20.
Ooh.
We have 9.
We're splitting again.
Oh, fuck.
But they got an ace. I'm splitting, fuck it.
Another
No
card.
balls.
20.
20.
That's a 14.
Oh, do I double down on the 4? I can't double down, actually. Hit.
No, don't do that, ace.
That's a 16.
Oh, what's on the table is an ace there already.
Ace.
Yeah,
Ace, yeah.
I'm standing.
Would you like another card?
There it goes.
Do you want
the
another
lucky
card?
wheel is spinning and another
What have I
fabulous
got?
prize
A
could be
9.
One of these hands should win. At the very least, right? We hopefully can bust out.
That's 19.
Just gotta hope they bust out. That's all I'm hoping on. That's where I make my money.
17.
They're just gonna hold it? Yeah. Big indeed.
Did you not win both of them?
Nah, I had 16, so she got 17 beat.
Oh.
Yeah. She just wanted to beat the 16. Cheeky girl.
To send in your bets. 5. An 8.
These have been terrible hands. Like, Or right hands at the same time.
15.
Definitely.
10.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit.
Another card?
Yeah, I'm risking it. I'm hitting.
That's 17.
No, I'm standing.
I'm really risking it for the biscuit. I am gonna.
There's so many low cards on the table, it's not worth it. Oh, shit.
A 15?
Oh, no.
Oh, it's not high enough, mate.
Actually, no, it might be right. It might be right.
A 10? 17.
Yeah, that's both of us. I split the pot.
I've run out of all them numbers. Reshuffle, please. Reshuffle. Reshuffle the deck, please.
Yeah, cool. Reshuffle.
Reshuffle, come on. This is a scam.
Shane's dog shit.
Your bets?
Alright. I am gonna do one more 3,000 and get more money.
7.
And do some fucking roulette.
A 12.
Yeah, roulette, eh?
Yeah. That's actually kind of fun.
Got 12.
Do you want another card?
I'm doubling down on this. Big nut in it.
2 10s.
There's an 18.
Oh!
Another card?
What do they got? 9.
I think it's a 9, yeah. It was an 8.
That's 8.
Oh, shit. Jester. Thank you for the gifted, oh, what? No, thank you for the subscription, bro. Thank you so much, absolute fucking legend. The tier 1 subby, always appreciated.
Alright.
Oh, it's my 12 grand. I think I might call it here.
I'm gonna do some fucking roulette if you want to join me for a little bit.
Yeah, alright.
Couple scrambles.
I'll put like 3.5. No, thank you so much for the fucking support, man. It's always appreciated. Go straight into the little piggy bank. And when we hit 40 subs, we're going to do a Pokemon card giveaway like we did the other day. Or the other month. Wait, I put 3K in the blackjack. Oh, she's not over yet.
Hope to see you again.
Or is he getting cash? I'll follow him over. I haven't even been here long enough to do another wheel spin too. Oh yeah, I don't have to give away Pokemon cards. I gave away a pack last time. I have Yu-Gi-Oh cards next to me as well. Right, I'm going to trade in the 10k. So I can't spend it. When do I get this? 40 minutes still. Still ages. Alright, so I only have the 3.5 left. Fuck, we're doing alright on money, bud. Oh, what a good night. Bunch of wheel spins, shooting. Yummy. I was trading cash.
Nice to have you back.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Alrighty.
Bet 100. First 12, third 12. I want to do it. 5.
Straight risking for the biscuit, just on red.
2 to 1. 2 to 1.
Give me
And an odd.
the money.
Let's go. It is good, but I feel it's overhyped. It is a bit overhyped, and it's because we've all been doing. Everyone's doing giveaways and stuff like that.
Time to play.
We'll start doing some big bets. Max bet on black. I did bet on odd. Oh, black.
Yeah.
I won 600 back. I was the only one to win.
Another
Oh
round.
man, I lost so much money.
Yeah, let's go. Right. Second 12. Red. Do an OO bet. A straight.
Too risky. No.
Do another one an odd. Bro, I'm just betting on everything. Fuck it.
Believe. Oh, who was that last cheeky bet?
Okay, bet.
Yeah, it's all me, baby.
Oh.
Oh, I nearly got that 0.
Red 3.
Damn. What's with the low number?
Oh, 1,000 back, bro. What the fuck am I with?
How?
I don't even know. I don't even understand roulette. I pretend to understand it, alright? But I just do things.
Oh god, I regret this, but I don't. No regrets. No regrets.
No regrets. Max bet on black trust.
I'm scared.
There you go. I just put the rest of it on black.
All bets are closed. It's time to
3 grand, go on.
If I don't get the right numbers here, I'm done. I put everything down, basically. I'm fucked if I don't win here.
Oh no.
Like the infinite spin. No.
Oh, I lost. No, I didn't. Yes, I did.
I don't know how I keep winning. Max bet on black. Wasn't 6 just black? It was.
Alright, look.
Max bet on black.
Yep. I'm done. Did.
I'm just max betting black. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, same.
It's good that this actually all works though properly. I haven't even done roulette I should be doing it more. More in the city. Go play it real life. Go to casino.
Okay, bets are closed. Let's
Fuck, that's a big bet. 2,400 on black. Go on, black. Black.
Black.
Yeah, black.
Oh, nah.
Oh, damn, I lost.
Fuck.
Right. Who wants to bash the dealer?
Another round.
I'll bash
Who
him.
wants to bash her?
Time to send in your bets.
My bad, almost on black.
Who wants to shoot her? Bitch. Give me my chips back.
First 12. Come and bet.
I got nothing.
We only bet 100, mate.
Broke.
Yep, second 12, max bet. Last bet. That was rigged, it was blacked when it stopped, it was, it was. It looked like we had it, and then nah.
Kit thing.
That's right, I'm up. I'm sitting on fucking 30 grand in cash. Oh! I just quit before the table finished, though. Oh, no! I bet! No!
Nah, it'd be good though.
Hopefully, Jens.
What have we got?
Give me your luck.
No way, I would have fucking won too! That was the second 12. That's bullshit.
You win. Go back in.
Another?
Nah, it's done.
Oh, really? No?
Yeah, so they got out before the bets closed.
Maybe a short break will change your luck.
Alright.
Marcus, have you got your pew on you?
Yeah, you want me to shoot this bitch?
Nah, like a good one.
Yeah, my good one. Yeah.
You want to use this? I want to see what it is.
What's he giving me?
I feel like it's a cool skin, but I don't think.
Oh, gotcha. One of the things you got out of that case.
Yeah.
Let us hide in the corner quickly so no cops walk in.
Cheers, Tommy.
You're welcome.
No, it doesn't work on this gun.
Ooh. Alright. That's a good thing to keep though, I guess.
There you go.
You will?
Alrighty then. Well, I'm gonna go catch a big sleep, I think.
Have a good sleep, man.
Yeah, enjoy.
Have a good one, bye.
Thank you. Oh, you timed yourself out, Jester. You hit yourself with a minute time out, lad. What the fuck? Why'd you do that? Just full evicted yourself from the stream. My brother. Why would you have gone and done that? Hey, no need, but let's get a raid going on. Time you out though, you poor cunt. Why have you done that to yourself? You need to do that, lad. Where is it? Boom. Josh, time out. Time out. No. to address the boom. There you go, bro. What the fuck, man? What are you doing that for? Right, let's go over to the full cam. Let's find some of the raid, eh, chat? We've been sitting here just dribbling shit, doing the fucking casino stuff. Not bad, good sauce. Just gotta open up my internet browser. Thank you guys all for hooking in the stream. Thank you to the tier 1 subby 2 Jester, your G-Star. If there's any suggestions on who we should raid as well, chuck them in the chat now. Well, I just mute everything and open up new tabs so I can fucking find people that are live. We've got Sunny. We've got Gaming Gay. We might even do Sunny. But if you guys have any suggestions, there's also Sean Swade. Chuck them in the chat now for us. We're in chat now, and I'll quickly fly out of city. We don't need to sit here anymore, I don't think. Boom, boom, boom. Alrighty, Ribbit. Oh, froze everything. But thank you guys all for hooking into another stream tonight. It's been an absolutely beautiful time. We had a good time at the event. We got a bit of winnings. No complaints there, really. And then a bit of winnings at the casino as well. Look at that. He's actually looking at GTA 6, so I think this might be a good timing to give Sonny a raid. So we're going to give Sonny a raid. Mr. Sonny Evans. Alright, do this over here in the Twitch chat. You want to see what it did? Oh, there you go. That's why it's a thing. It's an amogus. It's an amogus. But yes, we're going to be raiding Sonny Evans tonight. He's just looking at GTA 6 stuff, I believe, looking at Rockstar, looking at the trailer about the drop. And if you guys are subs here, make sure you guys use the DonHulieo raid, the DonHulieo hype, and the DonHulieo high emote, just like so. And spam those in Sonny's chat for me. But if not, just chill out and enjoy the rest of your night. It's all good. Just make sure you say hi from me. But thank you guys all for hooking into the stream. Let's go through the events if I missed any. A quick squizzy here. So we had a we have a subscription from Jester because he's an absolute gangster. Added you as a VIP tonight. I think Chappie also resubscribed tonight. I did see that somewhere. We got some follows as well. We got some follows. Not too bad on the old kick. No complaints at all. Thank you guys all so much for supporting us through the night. I might be going live tomorrow. I'm not too sure yet what I'm going to do though. Probably will be doing Bernard on Cop. Just don't know what time and whatnot, so I have to try and figure out what induction is. But I'll be streaming making Bernard and then make my way over to the induction, and I think there's like paintball or something, but I don't know if the cops will be there. So it'll be a big we'll have to wait and see. But thank you guys all again for tuning in. Much love, stay dons, and yeah, see you tomorrow night sometime. If you want to find out exactly when, get into the Discord or watch the YouTube live. Alright, much love, enjoy Sunny's stream, I'll see you in the next one. Be good now.